My name is Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV on the road, as you can probably tell. This is not my usual house. This is not my usual family. Shout out to Talking Heads. If you get the reference, then I think we're friends. But thank you for coming through. I'm so excited to be chilling out with you and to connect with you on the road. Once again, I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Make sure my mic is on. There we go. In a hip hop mood today, so you're gonna hear a lot of those references. Bring Your Worth TV comes to you every Wednesday live, as we are right now, at around 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Vegas time, it is hot as an oven in this general area. So it's still hot in the greater Vegas area and in Nevada. If you want to subscribe for free, you can do so at the links below. If you're on Amazon, if you're on YouTube, which is the main channel over at BringYourWorth.tv. Even if you're watching on LinkedIn, you can subscribe or follow me or what have you. Do your thing. I'm not actually on a lot of the social media platforms. You can go to the previous episodes to hear all my discussions about that. In fact, I had a mega episode from 2 Sundays ago where I talked about how you can build your business without social media. So I'm not going to get into that here. But on most of the platforms, you can see some remnants of me. And I know some of y'all share that stuff on the platforms that you're on, such as Facebook and X, Twitter, whatever they call it now. But thank you for coming through wherever you're at. If you want to subscribe, you can do so below. And you can get the complete Bring Your Worth collection over here. Well-worn copy. I guess you call that like the front of the house copy. This is what this is. So I think my kids might have gotten to it too, but it's a whole nother story. The complete Bring Your Worth collection is available now everywhere fine books are sold, including at damebrown.net. If you want to get it directly from me, it's a complete series. Almost all my business books, but we got to update on that soon. Almost all my business books from the past 8 years. My youngest son just turned 8. And I have a picture of him as a toddler. I don't even think he was a toddler. He's actually a baby. He just started teething, and he's biting the first copy of the Bites Entrepreneur. And there's a bite mark right there. And I swear in the picture, he's biting on the bite mark. It's as cute as can be. I'm biased because he's my kid, but shout out to him. So him and my eldest, who are about to turn 11. It's an amazing time, but I wanted to actually celebrate this journey and getting so many books out. There's about 8 books in here, no lie. So be sure and get that. Celebration of y'all too. Y'all made some of them bestsellers. You supported all of them though, which I appreciate. And thank you for the love. Another gift from me with that is the complete Bring Your Worth collection audiobook. You can actually listen to it right now, live right now at BringYourWorth.tv. After we're done, of course. But be sure and check it out. And that's my gift to you as well. Again, a lot of people that I coach that I'm supporting right now. Thank you for watching. A lot of you are traveling, not just me, but also like abroad and doing different things. So shout out to y'all. If you want to go and connect and hear the complete series right now, you can click right now after we're done right now. So in about 45 minutes, you can click on this and get into it. And if you're a longtime listener over the past year, I've been contributing to Moxie. Moxie is a political platform, but not a partisan platform. And so similar to my content, it's not politically based as far as like saying you should vote for this person and that person, but it is about the discussion. Particularly what I contribute is the insights, the laws, the discussions that are going to be most pertinent in this upcoming year. We got a big election in America. I know y'all are going through it in India. You just had a major election. In the UK, my colleagues and friends over there are saying that things are wild over there. Those decisions that are being made and people that are making those decisions, how are our interests being met as side hustlers, as solopreneurs, as non-traditional entrepreneurs? So I've been contributing to that conversation. You can actually join for free. It's usually 30 days trial. Actually, they want to make it 60 days if you put in the code Brown Damon. It's right there, right under my big head. Check it out. And as we get into more stuff, we already had a little primary election here in the Vegas area, which is Clark County. So it's already starting here. I was already turning the ballot a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it's getting real, folks. Be sure and get involved, particularly if you own a small business or if you're part of a generally underrepresented community. I'm a part of a few of them. So we got to get our voice out, become part of the process. So exciting. You can watch right now Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole, Creative Power Strategy. I love doing this video, and y'all have really come through and supported the video, which I appreciate. And it's about the different strategies that the popular rapper Drake, the Pulitzer Prize winning rapper Kendrick Lamar, and the very much rapper J. Cole, how they represent different ways that they found success. If you're into music, and particularly hip hop, you know that over the past few months, there's been a lot of discussions about the so-called big three and who's the who's the big me, to quote one of the rappers. And I think it's a great discussion to find out not just who the best one is, which, I'm a hip hop head back to when I used to write for The Source. There's nothing wrong with that discussion. What I want us to take away from it, though, which I tried to do with this video, in that 9 minutes, talk about the strategies that actually got them to where they are now. Like, there's literally millions of rappers now, right? Particularly if you've been following hip hop and writing about hip hop as I have for decades. There's millions and millions of rappers now. Rap is more popular than ever. And if you expand it to hip hop, which is a culture connected to rap, then it's even bigger, right? I'm a product of hip hop culture, even though I'm not a rapper. What strategies did they use to harness their creative power so that they were able to show up in a certain way and become, the legends of this generation? They're a little bit younger than me. You see the gray hair right here. So they're a little bit younger generation than me. But I think it makes it worth analyzing. I did a similar video about a year ago of the generation ahead of me, featuring MJ, so Michael Jackson, Prince, and Jay-Z, and how they use different strategies. The link to both of them is right in this link, so you can go ahead and watch it right now. I think you'll enjoy it, particularly if you're a fan of the show. But I'm so proud of this episode. I'm really glad of the conversations that are already happening right below in the comments where, and then there's some shorts related to it that are from there, and the comments are getting even more heated there. And it's still a big debate. In fact, one of them, I forget, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. One of them, Kendrick Lamar, is actually having a live concert. If you're watching this live, he's having a live concert that's going to be on Twitch, which is a popular video game platform, but it's beyond that as far as live streaming, and also on Amazon Prime. So I have some business this evening, but I hope to catch part of it. If I get a chance during this episode, I'll throw a link in there in the chat. All right. So today's show, favorite road tripping gear. Shout out to Willie Nelson, who made a cameo in today's thumbnail. Thank you for letting me borrow your hair. So definitely could use it. I love to travel. And as I said in the newsletter at joindamon.me, you can join it for free. In today's newsletter, I talked about how I've always had a complex relationship with travel, where one of those, part of me always wanted to travel and part of me wanted to stay still. And I traveled or moved a lot, not even traveled, moved a lot growing up because my family dynamics changed, because, one of my parents got a promotion. And so I'm originally from South Jersey. Shout out to Atlantic City. Was raised in areas around Camden. So shout out to Camden. I miss y'all. And then had my teenage years in the Midwest. So shout out to East Lansing, Michigan. Shout out to Ohio. A lot of spots over there. Went to school in Detroit. Shout out to Oakland University. And then when I went to get my master's in Northwestern, shout out to Chicago, then I kind of went on my own. And by then I was a full grown adult and kind of was a little bit farther from my family. My point is that with traveling, I've always had a complex relationship because I traveled or moved a lot when I was younger, and I continued to move when I was a young adult. And then when my wife and I started our family and I started to settle down, there was always that conflict as far as saying, particularly when we had kids. And again, my eldest is about to turn 11. And so it ended up being this shift. And it's like, all right, how can I continue to feed that need for travel, but still be an adult, right? It's like, and shout out to the wonderful people. In fact, some of them I'm really cool with, who have taken their family on the road and been able to travel like that. We didn't have the resources or the time or the structure to do that. And that didn't quite fit where our family was. So there had to be a decision that was made. And so that decision was me being a stay-at-home dad. And that meant, the traveling was severely curtailed. Now, as I'm approaching or actually in middle age, then my view is different, where the so-called sacrifices I made when I didn't travel, I'm all like, well, I want to be at home with my kids. And when I travel, I want to take my kids with me. And it's just a different type of environment, a different type of feel. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys are experiencing a different way of looking at travel as you get older. But for the work that I do, travel isn't necessary, whether I'm going to the TED conference or I'm doing in-person coaching, which isn't as common now because, so many of us are remote. It was way more common when I started my coaching practice, well before the pandemic hit, and we weren't doing the hybrid model, right? So you coach somebody, you go have dinner, have a cup of coffee. And shout out to y'all who are my early coaching clients, where we'd go out in the Toledo winters or whatever, and just have a coaching session. I appreciate y'all. Different level of intimacy with that. But if I'm doing a keynote speech, if I'm going to a conference, whether it's a CES show, which isn't that far because it's basically here in Vegas, or I'm going to more of the complex or more intimate conferences that require you to be in person, it's like travel is still a necessity. So what I want to talk about today are those things and those strategies that allow me to keep my sanity as I'm traveling, particularly when I'm away from family. The things that help keep me healthy, because again, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Man, I got so many different stories, and those that know me know I've done some crazy travel where it's like being on the road for ages or catching flight after flight after flight. I know some of y'all are still living that life, so shout out to y'all. But hopefully it'll help y'all get some insight and some strength as you go and start traveling. And also having the fun part of it too, where you and your partner, you alone, you and your kids, whatever the dynamic might be, it's kind of that season, particularly here in America, where the weather's nice, a little bit warm, but the weather's nice. A lot of people are out of school or, taking vacations. This would be the period of time. Get on the road. And hopefully these tools will help you with that process as well as you thinking about travel. Where are you guys going now? Is there a particular place that you're going to now? Is there travel that you want to do? Now the pandemic has waned a little bit, at least for a lot of America, then is there a certain way that you're trying to get outside now? Yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. So true to the show, the question I get a lot is, how do you keep your business moving while you're actually traveling? And that can be a little bit more difficult than it seems, just because we have to find ways to keep the momentum of our business. Having systems in place is the number one tool. Shout out to Tim Ferriss. He talked about this ages ago in his classic, The 4-Hour Work Week, where he actually went to, I want to say South America, but somewhere for 6 to 8 weeks. And the amount of time that he was out of the country, he wanted to make sure he didn't have to check in. And this is like, again, almost 20 years ago. So Zoom, I don't think that existed. I'm not even sure if Skype existed. Like, it was a different type of period of time. So if you're out of the country, you're really outside. I remember my first trips to Japan, and I was in my mid-20s. It was quite a while ago. And I just had to email. There was actually an earthquake in Japan, specifically in Tokyo, while I was there. And my whole family was worried about me, as well as my friends. And I had to email everybody because cell phones weren't popping like that, back in that period of time. The positive side about that, with what I experienced, and of course with Tim experienced when he was in South America, is that if you're gone for that period of time, you need to have systems to keep things moving. So it's not an option. Right now, I think we get fooled because we actually have the option to say, oh, okay, I'm going to be, I don't know, I was in Europe over the past year. Or I'm going to be in Paris, but, I have a coaching call that was set up. So I might as well just take the coaching call, and I'll go to this, there's worse things to do than to be drinking Parisian coffee and, be taking a coaching call. But it's supposed to be vacation and or family time. Is that what I want to do? Like, when I'm off next to the River Seine and I'm hanging out with my kids? Like, no. But we have that option now. And there's a couple of videos I'm going to recommend in a moment that will help you keep that business moving. And I think the issue is, number one, having the systems in place. But the second issue is having the right mindset and being like, I'm actually off. You've heard this probably from other thought leaders like myself, or people talking about things where that's really the danger, where we're in an always connected culture. And that means that you can always run your business, but that means that you're always running your business. And it allows you to be frankly lazy about creating systems that don't require you to be there. It can make you lazy about creating systems that don't require you to be there. And I think it's really important to go through that process and say, okay, if I were to, I've had health issues over the last few years, nothing major, but more with my allergies and stuff like that. Again, just a part of getting older. And it's like, okay, if I'm wiped out suddenly, believe it or not, there's bad allergies here in the greater Vegas area. So it's like, all right, I'm going to be wiped out. And I committed to having a show every Wednesday. And then suddenly I can't do it. So what's the system? Well, the system is, okay, well, I have a back catalog. Again, this is episode 386, I believe. This is episode 386. So I have a back catalog so I can do some reruns, or I can create a compilation of previous episodes, which I've done before, which you guys seem to appreciate. Stuff like that. Or I might be able to have a VA, which I don't have right now, but I could have a VA that I hire, and then they can handle it for me. Or I can go ahead and, there's so many different options. But things will happen, whether it's planned vacation or, you have issues in your family, or you have personal issues where you're like, I can't do it. So you're going to have to figure out how to keep your business moving, whether you're traveling for fun or not. And I think that's a really important part of it. The couple of tools I'm going to recommend will kind of help you keep things on the road, particularly if you do some of the work that I do, and hopefully it'll be useful to you. So the first thing I recommend is Audio Technica. I can never say that, but I guess I said it okay. ATR 2100X USB. Man, please, my friends in marketing, please help them, because that is a mouthful. It's a fantastic microphone. I'm actually using it right now, but man, please help with the branding. So this is the microphone. I'm going to get meta for a second. I apologize if you're listening only, because I'm going to get distant. This is the microphone. I'm getting distant now. As I said, it's USB, but there's also different cords to it. This is called, it begins with a C. I always forget the name of it. It's cardioid. I think it's a term for it, cardioid. So that means that there's, cardioid basically means like a circle or oval. And so the way that it takes the mic in, it's actually able to get the surrounding area in front of the mic, but not the area away from the mic, which is why, even though I'm in a fairly big room, you're able to hear me okay. It comes with this little stand, which my favorite part, which sounds super nerdy. Watch this. So you go like this, and then actually there's a way to push this up, but I don't want to break it. But it gets small. So this thing is about the size, I'm an adult male, so about the size of an adult male hand. Not the biggest guy, but it's like an average adult male hand. And this slides right in. And in fact, when I was traveling, again, hence me getting here, I was able to put it right in one of my bags. No problem. It might have been one of my backpacks. I just slid it right in. It was easy. It was no problem. And then you go and you plug it in. And again, they have USB. They also have an adapter that allows it to, is it called USB-C, I believe? They have an adapter that actually, or another wire that comes with it that allows it to plug right into the Mac. I'm an Apple guy myself, so it plugs right in there. And then you might be able to see it. Yeah, there's an on-off switch. It's blue right now, which means it's currently on. Again, while you can hear me. If I turned it off, then it'll be off. Really helpful to be thoughtful about that. If it's like you're trying to turn your mic off and you didn't, and the mute thing gets weird, and also the reverse as far as making sure that people can hear you, so you make sure that's on. But of course, there's the light. So I've had some mistakes with it, but it was definitely my fault. There's an excellent microphone to travel with, again, for that reason. There's some more sophisticated microphones that I actually just got, so I'm super excited about that. As I try them on, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and let you know how it goes. But the other microphones that I'm starting to work with, they're not really built for travel. They're a lot bigger. Now, they might be more crisp, they might be stronger, but this one is like a little baby microphone that works really well. This is actually my traditional microphone. So if you like the audio that you're hearing with the program, particularly over the past year, I think I've used it, then check it out. The links are all below, everything I'm talking about. So particularly if you're on Amazon, the link should be right next to you. The next one is a big one. Let me go ahead and pull it up. And it is the Paravel aviator luggage. That description looks massive, but this is important to note. Carbon neutral made with recycled material and vegan leather. In other words, take your pick, whether it's carbon neutral, which means that whatever process the company Paravel used for it, it's actually not making damage to the environment based on the current environmental standards from the EPA or what have you. That's one. It's recycled material, which means the material itself isn't actually extracting from the environment, other than, I'm assuming, the energy that it takes to actually create it, like physically make it. But the material itself is recycled, and it's vegan leather, and you can put that together. This joint, it's adorable. I actually got this through Ted, so shout out to Ted. I've had it for a couple of years, but try not to knock over everything. This is what it looks like. So it is small enough for me to have it on camera and not have it totally all over the place. I'm not going to bother to open it because it's going to become something that's going to become Benny Hill. But think about Benny Hill a lot. Shout out to all of y'all that remember Benny Hill. Yeah, that was definitely part of my childhood. But suddenly it would turn into Benny Hill and all this stuff would be spilling all over the place. And then the horns would start, and then I'd be running around in a circle trying to get all this stuff from the suitcase. But this suitcase is super cool for several reasons. Number one, it is dumb light. Like, it's ridiculously light. Like, I want to say suitcase itself is maybe, I've had bowling balls that have been bigger. I used to bowl back in the day. Shout out to my Midwest, again, my Midwest upbringing. But yeah, I've had bowling balls that have been heavier. So I'm guessing it's about 7 pounds, maybe. But it's durable as hell. Number two, it's simple and compact. It works really, really well. And it's worked on my weekend trips. The trip, that I'm doing right now, where it's a fairly brief trip, just for a few days. And it fits all my stuff into there. It works really well. It's also very durable, because I've taken it across the country. I might have taken it out of the country. I might have done an international trip with it. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I have I've had it for a couple of years. And if you want to be environmentally conscious about it, it works really well. The reason why I'm recommending both the Audio Technica and the Aviator luggage is that, for me, the compactness and not having to worry about things working is huge when it comes to traveling. And again, I'm in the middle of traveling, but it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. So I'm doing the show. And so me not having to worry about that, not having to worry about make sure my clothes are good. And yeah, of course, I got my Bring Your Worth t-shirt that you see down here. But, like not having to worry about all my stuff fitting in there, not having to worry about my sound being off because I have my microphone now. All those things, I think, allow you to keep your business going if you do need to do stuff on the road. That leads to my biggest recommendation for this question is checking out this video, Brene Brown, How to Slow Down Without Losing Your Business. One of my favorite moments or examples that I've seen with Brene Brown, and also one of my favorite videos. About a year and a half ago, Brene Brown put a message on her LinkedIn, and I think on other platforms, said, hey, I feel like I'm burning out. I need to stop. I'm going to take a break until September. I think it was like March. So maybe it was March of last year. Excuse me. And she explained, hey, these are the podcast episodes that she had 2 podcasts at the time. Having one is hard enough. These are the best episodes from these 2 podcasts. We'll be doing some reruns, but I really need to find balance. And she had just came out with a book called Atlas of the Heart. And it was just a lot that she was doing. I think I'm busy. She was ridiculously busy. And she was like, hey, I'm going to go and take a break. And so the way that she did it was so beautifully done, so strategic, and so honest. And when I've taken breaks, I've tried to use that same practice well before she did. But then when I saw how she did it, I was like, oh, that's how you can do it. That's beautiful. I love it. And so I did a video about it. It's about 20 minutes long. If you're struggling with how you can take a break from your business. If you feel like that's not possible, that taking a break is for everybody else, but not for you, be sure and check out the episodes. And I think you might be able to get some insight from it and hopefully get some encouragement as far as how you can do that in a strategic way that doesn't make you feel guilty or feel shame around it. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown on the road live. Bring Your Worth TV is every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free over at youtube.com/BrownDamon, all that link point there, or just go to BringYourWorth.tv. I'm trying to keep it easy for you. And my complete collection, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, is out now. You can listen to it live at BringYourWorth.tv or grab it at your favorite retailers, wherever fine books are sold. All right. So, really important question. How do I keep sanity on the road? I think everyone has a different practice for this. I know for me, and actually get this from my family, so shout out to my mom and other folks who do this. As soon as I get into a hotel room or the Airbnb or, staying at a friend's house, whatever the situation is, family, the first thing I do is situate everything as much as possible as it is at home. So that means when I get in, I unpack all my clothes, I pull out my medicine and toiletry bag and all that stuff and set it up in whatever bathroom I'm going to be in. Not taking up everything, but whatever my piece of the bathroom is. And then that leads to me bringing stuff from home that makes me feel the most comfortable. Like, for instance, I know I was going to be here for a few days, so I actually brought my favorite robe from home. It's like, yeah, if there's space for it, let's bring it. Why not? And I also brought some foot slippers that I got for free when I was doing some overseas travel. And I don't use foot slippers at home as much. Actually, I have an official pair at home, but I got the slippers while I was traveling overseas, and I was like, these might come in handy. And so I brought these, and these are great, because carpet or whatever might be going on. So that makes me feel more cozy. The certain sense of home. Shout out to Jenny Blake, who I've mentioned before. She did the awesome book Pivot, as well as her recent book, I think it's called Free Time, which she talks about how you can manage your time and make more time for the things that you love. You can tell why her and I are good colleagues. I think she does this, as well as a couple other people who actually bring candles. You have to be careful with the smoke systems, but folks will bring candles and then light them so those smells of home are familiar. Those little details, they might seem kind of weird or trivial, but they start to add up, particularly if you're doing long-term travel. This is not long-term travel for me, but when I did my first major book called Porn and Pong, How Grand Theft Auto, Tomb Raider, and Other Sexy Games Changed Our Culture, that was almost 16 years ago, long while ago. I'm like stuttering. I'm like, I can't believe it's been that long. But that was back in 2008. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I planned travel all across the country. And I did it within about 3 weeks without coming back home. And I was living in San Francisco at the time. And probably by week 2, I realized I made a mistake. And I was like, so I know me well enough where me checking in back home, even though I have traveled a lot, me checking in back home between big travel things, even for just a day, helps me reset, as opposed to me just being on the road and not coming back. In having that experience and some other experiences that I'll probably get into another time, I realized how crucial it was for me to feel centered as I was traveling. Because whether you're into routine or not into routine, when I was younger, I wasn't as much into routine. We still have certain things that we feel that give us comfort and that help create the structure of our lives. Even if we rebel against having a routine, that in itself is a routine, right? Right. As my friend Nilofer Merchant, shout out to her, does a wonderful book called The Power of Onlyness. And she talks about being a rebel. And when we say we're being a rebel, that's not the same as being a leader. A leader says, I'm going to create a new path for us to go on. I'm going to lead the way. A rebel says, whatever we're doing right now isn't working. We need to tear it down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what's next. So even if we're working within a structure and we're rebelling against a structure, we're still responding to the structure. What happens when there is no structure, aka when you're on the road? Those little details, whether it's little candles, again, be careful. I've set off smoke alarms, so that's why I don't do the candles anymore. But if you do like little tea leaf candles, tiny candles, if there's certain fragrances, I love lavender, so I got the lavender joints all in this place. Whatever, you got the slippers, cheap house slippers, but they feel so good. I brought my favorite robe. Like, get that stuff that you know makes you feel comfortable and rock with it. If you can bring that space, if you have the space to bring it, I mean, why not? And even if it takes a little bit of your luggage space, get you your Parvel over here. There's plenty of space in that joint. Then you're good, and bring them. Why not? And I think that will help a lot. There's also some practical tools that I think might help as far as comfort level and keeping your sanity on the road. Okay, this is out of all the stuff I'm recommending. If you've been a long time, as they say, a long time listener, first time caller, if you're one of those folks who've been watching Bring Your Worth TV for a while, for the 400 episodes, you've heard me mention TripIt a lot. I am not sponsored by them. Nothing like that. I just love their product. If you guys want to sponsor, give me a holler, but this is just because I love their stuff. TripIt is really, really, really simple. And the OG as far as the travel space. You put your information in there. In fact, you can forward it. Once you get your Airbnb, your hotel information, your car rental, whatever it is. Even if there's like a play or a movie you're going to go to, any of that information. Once you get that email, you don't have to put it into the app. You just email it to their specific address. I'm not going to mention the address because they might be changing it. You send it to that address. Within 5-10 seconds, they email you back, automatic reply. They say, hey, we got it. And they'll let you know if there's any issues with the reservation, like if there's conflicts or whatever. Other than that, they have this platform, usually through the app, which I recommend getting the app, and it will organize all your stuff. Most important thing, though, is not just the organization, but also that it will warn you if things change. And so I remember being on a flight to Pittsburgh, and I forgot why I was in Pittsburgh. I think it might have been a layover or something. And me and whomever I was with being stuck on the tarmac. And whenever there was a delay or an update, because they also, whoever it was also at TripIt, our phone would buzz at the same time and say, hey, this Delta flight is delayed, for another half an hour. Just be prepared, or did you want to find an alternate flight? And then it would be like 10 minutes later, I'm not exaggerating, then it'd be like, hey, it's your pilot speaking, right? Should be delayed for another 20 minutes, which of course makes it to 30 minutes plus a 10-minute delay, right? And it was like, oh, wow. And that happened like 4 times during the course of this very complicated trip. I think it might have been snow or something that totally screwed it up. Welcome to Pittsburgh, right? Shout out to my Pittsburgh folks. And, but that's what TripIt does. After that experience, I was like, oh, I'm lifelong TripIt. Like, forget that. Particularly, like, this is just a national travel. This is just within the States. With the international travel that I've done, it has totally saved my behind. And also, they just recently advanced it, I would say over the last 6 months maybe, where you can actually change your flight within it. And so they will help with that process with, if you're a road warrior like myself, being able to change your flight without having to stay in the line, whatever, is good. And I've had elite status with a lot of the airlines. Still, what TripIt's able to do is a little bit better than some of the elite status. So shout out to TripIt. Be sure and check it out. Again, this isn't affiliate or anything. I'm not connected to them. I just love their stuff. Be sure and check it out if you're going to be traveling. Road trips, you might not need it as much, but if you're going to be in the air or anything that requires a train, man, trains are crazy. I used to take a lot of trains, and they could be a day late. Easy. I don't know if that's happened or changed or not, because it's been a while since I've been on a train. But if you're on any type of system traveling where it's not a car, you actually have to depend on someone else being on time, please get TripIt. There's a free version of it. There's also Trip It Pro. I think the Pro might be $50 a year. Might be a little bit more. How valuable is your time? You got to ask yourself that question. Again, the question, how do I keep sanity on the road? That part. More gadgets. This is actually one of my favorites. I've had this forever. This is actually the Tribit. Got Tripit and Tribit. Tribit Stormbox 2 Bluetooth speaker. This is awesome. I'm a big fan of it. In fact, I should be able to turn it on. Hopefully the mic won't go away. So really simple setup. There's a power button. There's the Bluetooth button. There's a whole story behind the history of Bluetooth. You should look it up sometime. It has to do with, I think, Danish culture. It's crazy. And then there's the bass boost. And then this little thing is more power. You can lift this up. This part is a little bit tricky, but I want to be honest with how it works. Okay, so you open it up, and then of course you can plug that in to charge it up. There's no battery. It just plugs into the wall, which, and then we can do this. Right, and then it's going to try to connect to my phone. There you go, it just connected to my phone. So yeah, I was listening to the Michelle and Diacello Tiny Desk concert, which you should listen to. There we go. See, I knew it was going to mute me. See, that's why you don't do the live tech demos. Sorry about that. What I was saying is that it was connecting, but I thought it was connected to my phone because that's what I was listening to. And evidently it connected to my computer. But it's usually connected to my computer anyway, so it's not a problem of the device. It's more a problem of how my system is set up, back to systems. I love this device. It is, again, light. It might be 2 pounds. You see me just flinging it around. I want to respect the other people where I'm at, so I'm not going to blast it right now. But when I'm at home and, the new Griselda comes out, or, the Kendrick Lamar stuff that I've been listening to a lot. Again, I've done a lot of videos about him recently, or even the new J. Cole stuff that's come out recently, or, just listening to Angela Bofield, rest in peace, classic R&B that I grew up with back in the 70s. Like, it's fire. Shout out to David Sanborn, who just died recently too. And I did a newsletter about him a few weeks ago, the classic, iconic jazz saxophonist. You might not know his name, but you definitely heard his work. And me blasting him, and the bass and the sound and the hi-hats and the treble. It's excellent speaker, and it's super portable. I've taken this to the beach before and stuff like that. Definitely taken it on road trips. Check it out. And it's super affordable at this point. When I got it as a gift a few years ago, shout out to my family. I got it as a gift a few years ago. It was a lot more expensive. Now it's considered more of a vintage model, but it works excellent. And I've had no problems with it. I want to say the battery life is I probably have to charge it maybe once a week. And I use it a lot. I use it while I'm working, even while I'm editing these videos. As I edit this video for the replay, which you guys can also check out, then I'll probably be listening to this, particularly when I'm back home. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. And this one is a fun one. I just got this. I'm so excited. I'm not going to sing the Pointer Sisters, I promise. This is, make sure I get the name right. This is the Crosley CR 8005F MT Cruiser. Man, these names. Plus vintage 3-speed Bluetooth in-out suitcase vinyl record. It's a portable record player. That's what it is. Shout out to Crosley. I just got this joint. It's super light. And it opens like this. I feel like I'm suddenly in some type of mysterious briefcase movie. Pulp Fiction. I was like, what's the movie with the briefcase? This is joint right here. Hopefully you can see it well. And I can take this down as well, so you guys can actually see. There we go. Again, new surroundings makes it harder. And everything's backwards here. So give me a moment. There we go. So you can see that. There's actually a 45. Actually, it fell off, but it does all three speeds. With the speeds, it's a 78, 33, and then the middle one is 45. And again, if you're in my age group or you know your vinyl, you know the vibe is that little 45 in here. And then this setup, as you can see, you have your power, you have your pitch, you have your volume. And as it says in the setup, this is all Bluetooth based. And so it goes in two directions, which I'm still having a lot of fun experimenting with. It goes in two directions. There's speakers in there. And so if you have something like, again, I have my phone right here, or even my computer, you can actually Bluetooth connect to it and then use it as a speaker. And of course, when you have your vinyl, like your Angela Bofill record, which I plan on getting later on this week, I cannot wait. The Angel of the Night album, that's going to be the first album I get for this. I used to have a bigger vinyl collection, and then I traveled and moved so much, as I talked about earlier. I ended up getting rid of a lot of it. I don't regret that, because like my partner and I, and with the kids and all that, sometimes we lived in very small spaces. Not New York small, not Manhattan small, but fairly small spaces where if you have, a few hundred vinyl records, it's not going to work. So I don't regret giving them away, but for so long, I've been looking forward to getting a record player again. Two important things about this. First of all, there's currently a sale, like at this moment, which is one of the reasons why I copped it. So if you want to go and cop it, now would be the time. The links are below. The second thing is that I've had probably a handful of record players, particularly in my adulthood, and me and my best friend, shout out to Ray, us going vinyl shopping back in Chicago when I was post-grad after going to Northwestern. And that was many, many an afternoon, particularly if you're a broke post-grad student living in an expensive city, which Chicago, more expensive cities around, but when you're broke, Chicago's pretty expensive. And it was wonderful filling up afternoons looking at vinyl. And then, of course, vinyl wasn't as popular as it is now. Now I sound like the old man. Vinyl wasn't as popular as it is now. And so we're able to go ahead and get, vintage Alice Coltrane, who is John Coltrane's widow, and in some ways a fantastic, maybe arguably better musician than he is. I know it's sacrilege, but finding her joints, and they were like 99 cents. And getting into the classic Bob James, shout out to Bob James. A lot of the jazz stuff, even musicians that I wanted to get into, but I couldn't afford to, and I was able to find their vinyl. The reason why it really works as a travel thing is it's ridiculously light, and it's also very, very affordable at this moment. I can't promise the price, but if you're watching it live, the price is really good right now. With the other turntables I've had, they have not been portable. I don't know. You don't want to have your Techniques, 200s or whatever, or 1800s. I think they're 1800s. The Techniques 1800s, whatever, and having them under your arm, and then you're trying to go to the airport, or you're going to the beach for the day. Like, you can't do that. Like, that's not going to work. Also, too, with the Renaissance and other people realizing that vinyl is fantastic. Again, my best friend and I were ahead of that wave, a long time ago. Let's leave it at that, decades ago. But with that wave coming back, there's an opportunity for you to get involved in grabbing vinyl. And depending on what type of trip you're doing, taking the vinyl with you actually isn't that ridiculous. Or if you look at it this way, which will probably happen as I'm traveling right now, even finding vinyl or records where you happen to be traveling to and being able to play them back at your hotel, back at your Airbnb, back to your family's place, whatever. Just this portability factor made it like a no-brainer for me. It was just like, no, I need to have this as I travel on the road. So I'm really excited to keep experimenting with it, build my collection back up. It's affordable and it's portable. And yeah, with in the age where I was buying turntables, which we call it hip hop. When I was buying turntables, they would cost $200, $300. This one is far cheaper than that, and it's portable and it's Bluetooth compatible. Forget about it. So definitely check that out. I know it's going to be helping me with my sanity already as I do more travel later on this year. Again, that's the Crossley. I'm not going to say the rest of that, but it's a suitcase vinyl record player turntable. Man, someone needs to work it. Man, we need to find it. We need to do better. We need to find a better way to put that into 3 or 4 words. lastly, when keeping my sanity, I love the Delta Gold Card. It's a credit card. I've had it for ages, a long time, probably since my youngest one was born, maybe a little bit less than that. So I've been hardcore with that. Number one, I love Delta. The 3 major carriers that gets across America. It's Delta, American, United. Delta is my joint. I got a lot of stories. I've done a lot of traveling. I've done my research. Shout out to the points guy. Yeah, Delta's one for me. If you want to rock with Delta, if you're curious about Delta, or if you are already into Delta, there's many reasons to get this card. Number one, out of the different cards that are available, it is by far the most affordable. There's some of the cards that have an annual fee. This has a very small one, so that's one. The second thing is that it allows you to have free baggage for yourself and anyone who is actually on the same ticket/flight as you are. So if it's like you, let's say it's you and your mom and your aunt. If you guys buy the ticket at the same time and you're all on the same ticket, that's what they call it, the same ticket, and it's all purchased on the same time, then all of y'all would get free luggage. To get you up to speed, if you don't travel that much or if you haven't traveled in airports for a while, pretty much the standard is if you're checking in a bag, it's going to be $50 minimum. When I did the overseas travel, I think it was $60. Now they had a little, and then of course you have your 50 pound limit for each of the pieces of luggage. I believe with this card currently, and the things change, so please look at the link for details. I think currently you can have up to 2 pieces of luggage checked in for free. So off the rip, if you, again, I recently had a European trip. So the trip over there, if you check in one bag, that's, let's say $60. And then you're coming back. Remember, it's not round trip. So you're coming back, and you're also paying $60. So whatever small fee they have, the annual fee, it's going to be taken care of by the time you do your first trip, for sure. If you're checking anything in. I check in less stuff because I tend to be a lighter traveler. Again, that's why the Paravel like suitcase, that's like big for me. You know what I mean? Like in another lifetime, I'd be a backpacker. So that's plenty of space for me. But yeah, as I get older, of course, traveling with other people and my kids and all that stuff, it's like, oh, that's going to come in handy. And it did, again, with the recent family travel and other stuff. You also get points based on what you purchase. So of course you get, Delta frequent flyer miles for everything that you purchase, because every dollar that you spend turns into 1 frequent flyer point. Over the course of a year, or in my case, many years, it adds up really quickly, which allows you to do free travel. Two caveats in a good way to that. The first thing is that there's certain things that give you more points. Like if you use this card, I think it's currently at restaurants, then you get 2 to 3 points per dollar. So if you end up having a fancy business dinner, which I'll have a few times a year, I'll take a client out or whatever the situation it is. And let's say you spend $250 on dinner, which, for three people for a fancy dinner here in Vegas or general Vegas area isn't unusual. So you spend $250 on that. Then that ends up being perhaps, I think it's double or triple the points. So then you end up having 500 frequent flyer miles or even 750 frequent flyer miles. And as of this recording, or as you're watching this live, I think the cheapest Delta flight is about 7,500 frequent flyer points. I've gotten a few of those. So you do that $250 dinner, assuming it's 3x for that, then you got 750 and you're a tenth of the way to getting a free flight, just like that. And then you pay off your credit card and do whatever you need to do financially to do it, but at least they record that part of it. The second caveat with that is that as you go in and build up points And as you're working with the card, then it actually enables you to get access to certain discounts that only card owners have. And so a relative of mine recently experienced that, where her and a friend wanted to go traveling, and she had this card. It's either this card or one of the higher echelon ones, but it was part of the Delta card family. Just say she had this card. She had this card. Her friend did not have this card. They went to, book things together because they wanted to fly together to this place. And they actually had access to different seats, which, right. So there's certain seats that were like blocked off for my relative's friend, but my relative saw the seat and was like, why don't you just get the seat next to me? And her friend was like, well, it says the seat's not available. And they were like, oh, wait a second. You have the card. I don't. That's what happened. This is a recent discovery. And so even as far as your availability of seats, how much the seats might cost, particularly how much they cost in frequent flyer points, there's different tiers depending on if you have this card or not. A lot of reasons for it. There's actually a referral link. So I will get a bonus for it, but then I think you get a really nice bonus, like probably more points than I got when I signed up for this card way back in the day. It's in the tens of thousands of frequent flyer points if you end up signing up with this link. Hopefully it serves you well. I try to put up stuff on here that's going to serve everybody that is watching the show. So I wouldn't be recommending it if it wasn't fire. I've had the card for, again, almost the whole lifetime of my youngest son, and he's about to go into third grade. So I rock with this card heavy. There's also different tiers of the card. The gold is the most basic one. That's worked out well for me. I think there's a platinum one, and I think there's a blue one, which if you want access to the lounge and the real baller stuff, which I used to do, but I don't need that anymore. But go and check out the link. There's like 3 different options there. Have a blast. If you're going to be traveling and flying anyway, I say go ahead and get your points for it and do your thing. And, me having the card and other opportunities allows me to keep my sanity on the road. Again, my name is Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach to side hustlers, solopreneurs, or otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. You're watching the Bring Your Worth show at Bring Your Worth TV every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And I also have some bonus episodes that you should check out. I mentioned at the top of the show. You subscribe for free at bringyourworth.tv or on whatever platform you're rocking with. Feel free to do a follow or whatever they're calling it nowadays. Every platform's different. I can't keep up with it. I'm not a tech guy anymore, so I don't have to keep up with it anymore. But whatever your flavor is, feel free to follow or like or whatever so you can keep abreast of it. The simplest way actually to do it is go to bringyourworth.tv, subscribe, and then you get notifications. Hit the notification bell. You'll get notifications via email whenever a new episode comes out. You get my complete Bring Your Worth collection. It's over here. Here we go. Complete Bring Your Worth collection available now. And you can also watch it at bringyourworth.tv at the link below. And a recent episode that you can watch right now. Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole, Creative Power Strategy. There's a great conversation happening over there, as well as with the short video clips that are related to it. Some great conversations. And again, if you've been into music or hip hop recently, you know there's been a big conversation. I would love to contribute my piece of it. More importantly, what business strategies we can learn from the current 3 GOATs, greatest of all time, of our generation of hip hoppers. Last question, and if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. Last question, how do you keep your health up on the road? This is a key one. I mentioned earlier that I brought my robe here. I brought my favorite scents, all that good stuff. I also try to have some type of structure or routine, which is sometimes hard to do. Like this morning, I went and brushed my teeth, I washed my face, kind of got started. And then I did my 5 minutes of meditation, which in a couple of days I've been traveling recently, I haven't done. And to be honest, I woke up this morning and I felt pretty off balance. I'm like, what is going on? I was like, am I catching a cold? Or, when you travel, sometimes you eat some exotic stuff, for lack of a better term. And I was like, what's something I ate? I'm like, oh no, I need to go ahead and wash my face, start my routine, do my meditation. And a couple minutes into my meditation, I was like, oh, I feel fine. Everything's fine. But my routine had been disrupted. And again, there's nothing wrong with disrupting your routine sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that continues to be disrupted, then that disrupted behavior becomes your new routine. And you don't know how your body, your soul, your mind might react to that. And so if you're feeling off balance when you're traveling, I think it's important to go ahead and have some type of routine, some type of setup that will help you keep some type of sanity. And there's some tools that I've had too, which I think have helped quite a bit with that. Um, excuse me. One, which is a funny one, is actually me bringing a portable Nintendo Entertainment System, which allows me to chill out. This is a fun one. Oh, if you're like me, oh man, look how tiny. Look at this. It's not even. It's it almost fits in my palm. This is just crazy. It's so adorable. Another holiday present. I think it was Father's Day a few years ago. Thanks again to my family for getting this for me. Around the time that first came out. If you are a 80s kid like I am, then you know what the vibe is. The original one was like way bigger. I don't think this opens. Okay. It was way bigger, but it actually is the same setup. And this is the power button. There's a reset button. Hopefully I'm unlocking some core memories for you guys. And there's an HDMI cord in the back, or plug where the cord goes in. And it's really as simple as that. It has 30 games, and the games vary from the whole Super Mario Brothers series. So SMB1, SMB2, and SMB3, all classics, the trifecta. There's Metroid and Kid Icarus. If you're hardcore like me, you have a lot of memories of that. There are some hard games, so depending on where you're at. There's Ice Climber. There's Double Dragon, which was the classic fighting game from the 80s. There's Star Tropics, if you're an RPG nerd like I am, as well as the original Final Fantasy, and I believe Final Fantasy 2. There's Mike Tyson Punch-Out. Shout out to Mike Tyson. That's how long Mike Tyson's been around. He's like 57. He's still in the ring. This is back when he was the most dangerous man alive. Lots of other good stuff. Tecmo Bowl. So not just games that are actually from Nintendo itself, but also games that were from what we call third parties. So from companies like Capcom, which I think Mega Man 1 and 2 is in there. Like, they're covering like the greatest hits. All in here. You don't need to download anything. You can actually save at any time. Thank God. Because these are some of the Castlevanias in there. Speaking of hard games, it's some of the hardest games that have ever been made. The original Mega Man, I remember beating that, and I thought like my life was good. I'm like, wow, I'm part of the elite now. I'm part of Mount Olympus. Really hard games in here, some of them. You can save at any time. And I think there's 4 or 5 save slots. Metroid comes to mind, where it used to have a password system where it had 20 different characters, if I remember correctly, that you had to memorize. I remember getting the handwriting wrong because I've always had sloppy handwriting. I remember doing an all-nighter with Metroid, writing down the password, and then I must have gotten a letter wrong, and I lost all my progress. And I remember being so angry. You don't have to go through this with that. Again, I'm middle-aged. I'm not going to go through that anymore. That's for my kids. But also, the beautiful thing about this, 2 things that I love about it. Number one, again, it's ridiculously portable. These controllers are the same, like the same techniques that I used. Bam, they're the same, right? The second part of it is that everything's self-contained. And so I literally was able to bring this with me on my trip, and just, again, tiny little thing, put it in the backpack. There's a couple extra wires in the back here, but that's it. And it's plug and play, as we used to say back in the tech days. And all 30 games are in there. You don't need to download anything. You don't need an internet connection. It's just beautiful and self-contained. And I loved when I got this a couple years ago, and my kids must have been 5 or 6, 5 going on 6, and probably 8. So 5-year-old and 8-year-old, and being able to play these games with them that their old man, when I was around their age, was playing, and be able to expose them to this. and to show them things that, you know, they might not have. They might think you need to have a PlayStation 5 to have fun. And it's like, no, actually. And we spent hours, if not days, on this, much to the chagrin of the rest of the family, where it's like, okay, you guys need to take a break. Actually, 2 words of caution with this. Number one, this has actually become vintage in itself. So this vintage has become vintage. So these run a couple to a few $100s now. They're a little bit cheaper before, but now they're becoming harder to find. If you want one, you can use the link below and they'll have used ones, whatever, go for it. Again, there's not a lot of technical components to it. Just get one while you can, because again, I got mine about a couple years ago and they were starting to become a little bit scarce then. And I was doing some research for this episode and they're getting scarce again. So be sure and check it out. The second thing is that, which not crazy about, is that the controllers that come with it are tiny. What is this? This is 3 feet? If you've played any type of video games that are wired controllers, and again, this generation, you might be part of this generation where you're used to wireless controllers. I'm used to wired controllers. So my kids, again, 2 rough and tumble boys, and there's so many times where they were like in the middle of playing, you know, I don't know, Mega Man, again, the hard one, the first Mega Man, and they end up yanking it out, and it gets getting yanked out. So I end up footing the bill for an additional controller, and there's a lot of third parties that do this, and this is actually another camp. I'm going to show you. Let me show you. Okay, so I'm about 5'7". This is my forearm. This is how long this wire. I can't even keep it on my forearm. This is how long this wire is. So it's like, was this like 10 feet? Like this is a thing, but they didn't yank it out anymore. It's worth footing. I don't know. I think I paid like $15 for this. 100% worth it. So if you're going to get the portable NES, I highly recommend, if you can, if you like classic games or you want to get into classic games, it's better than having to go to all the garage sales and collect the games. I used to have all the games. I know how hard that is, particularly nowadays. Just get this joint, particularly if you have like a small apartment, or again, if you're traveling, this works really well. And all you need to do is get you have the HDMI cord that comes in there. Most TVs have an HDMI cord, or you can go ahead and if it doesn't fit, you can go and buy an HDMI to AV cord, which will fit some of the older TVs. Just try it out before you get on the road and make sure that you have all the wires that you need. And the only upgrade I would recommend is getting some longer wires for the controllers. And again, that'll run you like 10, 15 bucks. I love this little thing. I'm actually going to play with it a little bit later on during my travel. I cannot wait, and do it in a grown man way. So probably, pour a little something, turn off the phone, and then maybe beat The Legend of Zelda for the umpteenth time. They have Legend of Zelda 1 and 2. I'm going to digress. That alone should make you want to get this joint if you're as hardcore as I am. That's one of my favorite things as far as with traveling. That actually helps more with my mental health. With physical health, this is one of my favorite things as well. And shout to my partner who actually found this, and I got into this, so thank you. It's Elemis Aching Muscle Super Soak. And, I don't work in a construction yard, I have some rough hands, but they're not that rough. So it's not like I have a laborious job in that regard. But I love taking baths. And this, you could take like a half a cup of it and you pour it into your bath, and it has little bath bubbles, but it also, you can feel it as far as that. And I'm going to tell you the truth too. Like, again, my kids are 8 and about to turn 11. And they love beating up their dad. Like, you don't have to call protective services, but like they're always fighting, either fighting each other or fighting me. And it's play fighting, but they're getting older now. And so even as far as wrestling with them or at the park and we're running, just a physical activity, that can put some wear and tear in your body. It's fantastic for baths. I would highly recommend it. It is on the expensive side, but you only need to use so much. I have it on I get it through Amazon. Shout out to Amazon. And I actually have it on my subscribe and save. Sorry, got a lot of shine going on here very, very bright over here. But I have subscribe and save, which I think currently that saves about 5 to 10% off the price, and I get it quarterly. And I take baths a few times a week, and it lasts a long time. Again, you don't need that much. It is medicinal, so you want to go ahead and check the ingredients. You're not going to be able to read on here, unfortunately. I'm happy to keep it up, but it's not going to help on the camera. But feel free to go to the Elements website or click the link right here, and then they have all the details. If you have any type of allergies or stuff like that, it works very well for me. So I'm happy to share it with y'all and do that. That pretty much only works with baths. And so if you're traveling in a place where there's showers, not really going to help you. But if you're in a place where there's baths, not jacuzzis, but actual baths that you're actually able to sit down into, then it's a big part of it. And that leads to my next recommendation, which I just got into recently. It's been on my list for a long time. I'm going to move my coffee because it's going to get big. Shout out to Saigon Coffee. I love y'all over there. So this is I don't know how to pronounce this one. Urolin? I think it's Urolin. It's on my list for a while, but I don't know how to pronounce it. The Urolin Premium Bath Tray Caddy. We're going to get physical again. This is a bath tray caddy. It actually goes in half, again, making it easy to travel with it. And then, there we go. And then it expands. I feel like I need to play some backgammon. Oh, it's on the other side. I was like, why isn't it staying still? Got it backwards. There we go. So this is the premium bathtub tray caddy. Hopefully you can still hear me. More importantly, that you can see me. And as you can probably guess, let me put this down so you can see my big head. As you can probably guess, it's a bathtub caddy. So while you're taking your bath, you go ahead and put this down. And I love having baths where it's just me being out into space or laying back and, putting my head under the water or just reflecting on the day. Sometimes I want to have a glass of wine or something stronger. Hey, there's a space for that. Sometimes I'm in the middle of watching one of my favorite programs. There's space for that too. And you can go and set yourself up. And it is waterproof. Oh, it smells so good. It's actually made out of real wood. Still very affordable though, but made out of real wood, and it's just a vibe. You also can lock it into place. I know it seems loose, but you can lock it into place so it'll be firm. Just, of course, be careful with it because you will have it over water. And I started using this a couple weeks ago. I'm a big fan of it. I'm definitely going to take it traveling with me. And it's, again, about twice the size of my head. And then it's actually a little bag that comes with it. I don't know if I'm going to use the bag or not. It's a sturdy bag, but I don't know if it's really my style. And the joint fits right in there. And that's it. The last thing I'll say on that part is that it also comes with these little trays that slide right in there. And I can show you guys in a moment if you care to see it. But they go in there at a slight angle. And if you're intuitive, this is about the size of the average tablet. This is about the size of the average phone. Maybe not the average phone at this point, because you guys got some massive phones. I like my baby phones. You guys, man, I got older relatives that have phones that are like the size of my head. I'm like, you might as well just walk around with a tablet. But average size phone would fit in the ear, or at least you can lean against it. So you can put it in like this, almost like an old school typewriter. You put it in like this, and then you can lean it right there, and then you're good to go. So if you're watching Bridgerton, shout out to my friends and loved ones who are into that right now. You're watching Bridgerton, or if you're more like me and you're catching up on like, I don't know, the Joe Budden podcast or Winover Productions, shout out to y'all over on YouTube. I'm loving the videos. Then you might be on the tablet, or you might be on the phone, and that allows you to do that. I'm not big on working, like doing serious work while I'm doing a bath. Like it kind of, to me, that defeats the purpose. But if you have work you need to do, that could be the equivalent of you working by the pool, where stuff needs to get done. You might as well be comfortable with it. So that's helping with the health. Two recommended, give get out of my mouth today. I think I need more coffee. 2 recommendations as far as videos. Number 1 is Smart Holiday Travel, a live Q&A that I did a few months ago, where I gave a whole bunch of suggestions with travel, with more tools and stuff that would help you go through the holiday season. For a lot of us, because Memorial Day here in the States was like 2-3 weeks ago. It was fairly recently. And so that in the United States, that's considered the beginning of the travel season. And then Labor Day, which is for us, is in September, usually beginning to middle of September, depending on the year. That marks the end of the travel season. And then, of course, there's the opposite of that picks up again around Thanksgiving here in the United States, which is around the 3rd Thursday of November. And then it ends around New Year's, which, of course, is January 1st. This gets into a lot of the other details that I was not able to get into with this. And also the best kind of tools as far as software that can actually help you while you're traveling too. So be sure and check that out if you want something a little bit deeper. And lastly, travel without leaving home. This was an important one for me because I wanted to give the tools that might help you if you couldn't leave. And this episode is closer to when we were sheltering in place. Also, there's a lot of people that I coach and a lot of people that I care about that have physical, mental, or emotional limitations where they're like, yeah, I can't leave the house, right? And if you're in that group, it's like you still deserve to be able to travel. And so I give a whole bunch of tools, a whole bunch of software, even some websites that will allow you to expand and learn without having to get on a plane or a train or automobile. And so it's an important episode to me because I want to make sure that I gave love to all y'all who might not be able to head to a hotel or go on a spontaneous road trip, or it requires so much inordinate amount of travel or planning, that traveling doesn't seem realistic at the moment. So, if you're in that position, and I know some of y'all are, be sure and check out the episode. Again, really important episode. And as you can tell, it's really close to my heart. So hopefully it serves y'all well too. Very much been working in his own eccentric, whatever term you want to use, circles. Be sure and check out the episode. I love the feedback on it so far. And this is actually connected to 2 popular episodes I did featuring the aforementioned artists. Be sure and check it out. So it's been in total 3 episodes. 1 episode, start right here, and then you can learn more as you go deeper. Both episodes are super short, but I think you guys will appreciate it, especially for if you're doing side hustlers, solopreneurs, non-traditional entrepreneurs, the people that I coach, a lot of y'all. This is for y'all. So this is the energy. All right. Today's show, Run Your Business While on Vacation, a live Q&A. If you have any questions or comments or feedback along the way, the lines are open. And as Fraser Crane would say, I'm listening. So this came to mind because, again, I'd taken a break last week, had family celebrations with my in-laws as well as my blood family, whatever you want to call them. And then also had 4th of July, which we celebrate here for Independence Day here in the United States. And the show has to go on. Now, I still was putting out content and other things, but a lot of it was automated, to be honest. Also, it made me really think, how many of us are working on the 4th of July, which is, again, a holiday here in the States, or Canada Day, which you guys just celebrate up north? How many of us are grinding it out on Diwali, which is what my in-laws celebrate, or on our particular holidays? And how long does it take for us to push until we realize we actually do need to stop in some form, whether that's taking a nap, that's taking a vacation with ourselves or with our family. It's just taking a breather and taking a morning off to strategize. How often do we give ourselves that gift? And in fact, that's not even the right terminology. It's not even a gift. It's more like a necessary pause. I have a recent video I did about this. It's linked below, but I'll get to that later on in the episode. But taking that pause, as entrepreneurs, we're wearing all the hats. We're CEO and often CFO, definitely COO. How many O's are there? Double O, COOs. So as we're working through that, when do we take all the hats off and say, I'm good for right now? If we had traditional jobs, there are 2 things that would happen. Some of y'all that do the side hustlers might have when I have traditional jobs, so you would understand even a level that I I don't understand anymore since I haven't had a traditional job in a very long time. Two things happen with a traditional job. The first thing is that you're paid a certain salary, and unless it's commission based, which is a little bit unusual, it's pretty fixed. So one of the authors I'm going to talk about today, Mike Michalowicz, to you, hope you're doing well, has a great book called Profit First. It talks about that. So he gets to the financial part of it. Maybe I'll do a future episode about it if you guys are interested. Again, shout something in the comments if you want me to work. But he talks about how we often underpay ourselves as entrepreneurs, as founders, and I'm a founder, 4 times over or whatever. We don't separate the founder from the CEO. The founder is someone who creates the company, and then they usually have equity in the company. So it's usually a percentage of whatever sales are made go back to the founder because they own 3%, 30%, 80%, whatever. But then there's also the pay that goes, the salary that goes to the CEO, the president, whatever term you want to use. And that's a fixed salary. Those two things are separate, but yet we're wearing all the hats, so we don't pay ourselves appropriately. The reason I bring that up is that, number one, we have that aspect of it, the financial part of it. But then we also have the rest part of it, all the other resources that need to be renewed, right? And so when we say, okay, I got a new job, traditional job, corporate job, or even a blue collar job, more of a traditional, salt of the earth job. They're going to say, okay, here's your package, right? So health, insurance, all that stuff. And then what do they say? They say, and you get 2 weeks of vacation and extra day of vacation based on seniority every year that you continue to work at the company continuously, right? Pretty basic, at least here in the States. Again, give a shout if you live somewhere else and it sounds different to you. If that's the case, so I get my mic a little bit closer. If that's the case, then when do we do that for ourselves? I have a publishing company. I have Bring Your Worth TV, which you guys are watching, and I have my freelance business, which essentially is just me. Those are 3 businesses. None of those businesses say, "Hey, go ahead and take a break today." Nobody does that. Or hey, you have some vacation time. You better use it before the end of the year, or it's going to go away. Nobody does that for us. Nobody. So we have to do that for ourselves. So that's what inspired me today to have this conversation, y'all. To be like, it's not even a matter of us deserving a break as far as entrepreneurs, but we actually need a break. It's literally built into the American system that corporate workers and so forth need to have a minimum amount based on HR guidelines of breaks. But we don't have that as independents. And in fact, we have quite the opposite. We have quite the opposite, where we have a rise and grind culture. So look, I took a shower today. Actually, I had to take 2 showers because it was so hot. I took a nap today. I actually spent a little bit of time with my kids this morning and played with them just briefly before they went off to camp. That isn't just leisure, as they say in England. It's not leisure time. It's actually part of a bigger system, whether it's our bodies and us getting the rest and needing to take a break, or it's us actually getting wiser with our strategies and how we are creating this life that as entrepreneurs, we're taking all these risks for. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How to run your business while on vacation. We're going to talk about why we fear vacations. Shout out to Elon Musk, because he really drove that topic home about 10 years ago. I did a lot of columns about it. So why people like Elon Musk fear vacations, why a lot of us do. Second of all, how we can structure things so that we're able to take a break. And then third, last thing, is how we can build in structures so that it's not just a one-time thing, but actually can become part of our lifestyle, which we do have lives outside of being entrepreneurs. If you have any questions, drop some below. The first question that comes to mind when I talk to folks about this is, why can't I take a break? Legitimate question. I have coached hundreds of entrepreneurs, and most of them, you know who you are, because you're similar to me, where it's like, Damon, I know I need a break, but I can't afford to take a break. It could be financial, but oftentimes it's psychologically. I can't afford to take a break. I can't take a break. And I found there's 2 big reasons why we can't take a break. The first big reason is that our to-do list is too long. We got too much stuff to do. I have my, yep, there it is. I have my index cards. Shout out to y'all in the comments with the recent episodes talking about index cards. It's a messy index card, but actually it's my plan for the week on here. And I use index cards because if it doesn't fit on an index card, feel free to pause. Nothing secret on there. But if you feel free, if it doesn't fit on the index card, and with my messy handwriting, then it's not going to get done this week. And so it forces me to cull things down. You might feel like you can't take a break because the to-do list is too long. You got too much stuff going on. And of course, you have a few options when it comes to this. One thing is to prioritize, which is what I do. The second thing is to get some support. And I'm going to talk about some virtual support tools, whether it's using like AI or just good old-fashioned software to take some of that stuff off of your plate. Or it could be a person where you get a virtual assistant or a real life assistant, what have you, who will take some of that stuff off your plate. So the prioritization often is the challenge when it comes to that. The second layer of that is that we often want to stay in control of whatever we're doing. And that can get into perfectionism. I've done a TED Talk about that. You can see it in the links below. It could get into perfectionism. It could get into wanting things to be in a certain way. And if you want things to be in a certain way and you're by yourself or you're not training or bringing in support that knows exactly how you want it, or the support that you bring in has their own big ideas, which might actually, frankly, be better than yours or stronger than yours or more appropriate for yours than yours, but you're not open to that, then you're going to have that pile on of saying, I can't take a break. If you feel like you're doing everything and you're a founder, then you might need to find a way to offload some of that. Again, either virtually through software or virtually or in person through an administrative assistant. It might be the point where your business is big enough where you need to hire people, or you might actually need to scale back and figure out what exactly is your priority. There's quite a few great books about it. I can throw some recommendations and the links a little bit later on in the replay of the show. There's a couple that are coming to mind immediately. But if you're curious about that, throw some comments in there. Like, is that something that you're struggling with as far as feeling like you can actually take a break? The second reason why we often feel like we can't take a break, and it's something that I struggle with a little bit, but I wouldn't call it a struggle, more like a process, is the timing is too great. This book needs to come out this fall. If it doesn't come out this fall, it's not going to quite hit the pop cultural moment. This is the moment. This is the time. You know what? I need to take this meeting overseas. I know it's not a great time to travel, or I got stuff going on with my family and all that, but this is the time. What we need to do, myself included, is to separate what timing is based on actual facts and what timing is based on a deadline or a pressure that we're putting on ourselves. I'll give you a simple example. When I'm actually going to be doing some interesting stuff in the publishing world. I'll just keep it very broad because I need to keep it private for right now. Interesting stuff in the publishing world soon. But it's based on my own publishing company. There was one cool thing I wanted to do, I want to say at the top of the year. And I was like, this is going to be hot. It actually involves a show. Like, I can't wait for y'all to see it. It's going to be amazing. I might be more excited than you are. And then things got jumbled around. My priorities got shifted. There was stuff going on at home. There was stuff going on with work stuff because I'm a consultant, so I was working with other folks. There was even stuff going on with some of my coaching clients, and they really need my support at the time, and happy to be supportive of y'all. You know who you are. And so I felt this weird pressure. I'm like, no, I said I was going to do this publishing project, and it was going to come out, let's say, in the spring. It's not going to come out in the spring now. I'm failing at this. And I had to calm myself down. I was like, wait a second. Okay, does anyone else know about this project aside from the folks that are involved in it? No. Okay. So the public doesn't know about it. I didn't promise y'all anything. Okay. Is the publisher breathing down my neck to get it out? Well, yes, but you're the damn publisher. Damon, you're the publisher. You're working for yourself. right? Which is what I was getting at the top of the show. You're working for yourself. Okay. And does this timing matter as far as it needing to be out, say, in the spring? I would like it in the spring, but does it have to be in the spring? No. And as soon as I went through that really brief process I just went through, and I was saying this stuff out loud, I was solely by myself. I was like, oh. And suddenly everything calmed down. See, my shoulders are up. The shoulders just kind of calmed down. It's like, calm down. Nobody knows about this project except for the folks that are involved. It's not expected at a certain time except for by you. And the timing doesn't matter except for you really want to do it. So the project's still happening. I'm excited. But suddenly it's like, oh, I have some breathing room because I got the family stuff going on at home, and I have stuff going on with my coaching clients, and I have stuff going on with my consulting clients. And I was doing some travel earlier this year too. It's like, okay, why am I putting that pressure on myself? So those are those are the two reasons I think why we feel like we can't take a break. Number one, we have too much stuff on our list, but there's actually things we can do to get some of that off our list. It might take some time, but that's actually more in our control than we think. And the second thing is that we think that this timing is ideal, and that's why we push ourselves so hard. Sometimes the timing is ideal. With my second startup, Cuddler, which connects people for hugs, we launched it at the exact right time as a co-founder, along with two other co-founders. Launched at the exact right time, and then we ended up selling the startup exactly at the right time. In some ways, we couldn't have planned it. We had some planning in there, but and I was a COO, so a lot of the strategy was I was pushing the strategy part, but we can't take full credit for it. That was a case of timing. So if you read the Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, I talk about the story behind that, as well as in some of my later books. But again, they're all in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. And even with that, I knew I was pushing myself, and we all knew we were pushing ourselves because of this particular timing. But as I said, I have a newsletter at joindamon.me. You guys can join for free. I talked about that in the Wednesday newsletter I do, again, every Wednesday. I talked about that this morning, where often I would push myself based on the promise that I would take a break immediately afterwards. That was my promise to myself. Yeah, I'll do these late nights, and I'm at home with my partner and I's first kid at the time too. He was like 1, little single-digit 1. Like he was a baby, about to turn into a toddler when I started the journey with Cuddler, and it was like, I can push myself, but I'm going to push myself within this particular parameters, because I knew we had a certain window of time. Sometimes, though, you make that bet with yourself. I make that bet with myself and say, I'm going to push myself. I'll rest immediately after. And then the after doesn't come. And then all the stuff on the to-do list continues. Particularly, my partner and I have 2 kids. They're 8 and 11. It's been nonstop, like forever. We're talking decades of this, right? Not to mention the dynamics with all of y'all that don't have kids or parents taking care of, whatever. We all got our stuff to go through adulting, and we're adulting the right way. We all got responsibilities. Listen, that list doesn't stop. And so make sure, if you make that promise to yourself, as far as saying this needs to happen now because of the timing, and that promise is that you're going to rest after, for God's sake, please rest after. And that's how we end up getting, frankly, hemmed up. As we used to say back in the day, you end up getting hemmed up because you were promised to yourself rest, and that means that you're pushing yourself way harder than you normally would, based on that promise you made to your body and your soul. And sometimes we don't fulfill that promise. And our body will come to collect. From a practical standpoint, one of my favorite products or services, whatever you want to call it, to actually allow you to offload some of that is a company called Strikingly. Shout out to y'all. I've been working with them for a long time. I want to say I've had my stuff with them for about 6 years, maybe even 10 years. It's been a long time. Probably since, I started my journey as far as publishing company, which was about 8 or 9 years ago. Strikingly is fantastic. Let me go ahead and pull them up, and hopefully my technology will cooperate. Share screen. There we go. And let's get you going. Awesome. Looks like it's working. Good job, Damon. All right. And so strikingly make a website in minutes. You might have heard of similar stuff like Wix or what's the other one called? Squarespace, stuff like that. I'm partial to Strikingly for quite a few reasons. Number one, the customer service is awesome. Number two, their pricing is great, particularly for what they do. And number three, they're really good with the multimedia. And I'll go ahead and show you the basic one. This is stuff you're going to see at Strikingly, the main website. Again, all the links are below. These are affiliate links, and so I actually will get something from it. More importantly, you guys will get something from it. And so there's actually bonuses in there because I was able to work it out with the company. So you can see what's happening. You can see that they've been around for a minute and they're pretty reliable. The e-commerce store, this was the game changer. And let's go ahead and hop into it. I'll go and get on my, let's stop that screen. And then I'll go and get onto my own website, which is built on Strikingly. There we go. And not trying to plug anything, just to make sure that you guys saw the flow. And so this is what was built on Strikingly. I actually built it myself. Did not take that long. What I love is the integration of, there I am on the TED stage back in the day. And so everything's built in there, like my sizzle reel, they call it. So like if people want to hire me as a keynote speaker, which is part of what I do, if you want me to keynote speak, shoot me a DM, let me know what's happening. My strength quiz, which is based on Bring Your Worth. And then there's my mug over there, and then it just flows from there. And enough about me, but that's kind of how it works. And what I love about it, in fact, there is one other thing. See, I lied. There's one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, I forgot the main reason I was showing you guys that. All the way at the bottom, continuous scroll, and and my engagements, so all the speaking I've done and podcast appearances, this is where it gets fun. So the whole store, my store, if you want to coach with me, if you want to buy books directly from me and have them signed, if you want, I do not have my Bring Your Worth t-shirt right now. Shout out to Charmaine Jackson, Dr. Charmaine Jackson, for the Get You a Therapist t-shirt. I'll go ahead and throw a link below. If you want to get the Bring Your Worth mug, if you want to get involved with the merch or whatever, then you can get it all through here. So you have my coaching, you have the complete Bring Your Worth collection that I'm talking about right now. You have if you want the full physical ones, if you want them, I got them. Passive Writer, shout out to Jeanette Hurt, my co-author on this, talking about passive income for writers. You get them all there, as well as the old school Built From Now t-shirt. So you can cop that, etc. All that is in there. Let me close this up. There we go. Looks like we're still on the air. Again, technology's been wonky today with the heat, but all that's built in there. The reason I bring that up is that I don't have a separate website for what they call fulfillment, or one that's going to accept the payments for thing and all that. All that is built within Striking. I think I pay a slight extra charge just to have that store in there. It's worth it because you can go to damebrown.net right now, and anywhere from us having a coaching consulting where I do a 15-minute consulting with someone who wants to coach with me, we find out if we're a good fit, or you end up buying a Bring Your Worth mug, t-shirt, whatever. It's all in there. So when I was traveling and hanging out with my fam last week during, again, the 4th of July here in the United States, I didn't have to worry about fulfilling things. It was just like all that ordering process was all in there. That's what I mean by giving yourself a break and allowing your business to run itself. Strikingly is a great companion with it. Again, I get so many pitches for different websites and different platforms and different fulfillment. And again, I'm a founder myself, so I know what's out there. I know some folks that are creating these types of platforms. And I've been with Strikingly for a long time for a reason. So shout out to Strikingly. I appreciate y'all. And be sure to check out the link and click the link below, to check out what's happening, as well as go to damebrown.net and see what Strikingly can do. Again, they're killer with the multimedia, not only with having stores on there, but also as far as e-commerce, but also with me being able to embed the different TED-related talks I've done, the keynotes I've done. Almost all of them are embedded in my website, and it's really smooth, and I love how it works. My favorite book right now, hands down. And if you've been watching recently, I've been reading so much. I've been reading Probably a book every 2 weeks, which is a lot for me. Sometimes a book a week. That's where I was at, more in the spring. Summertime is slowing down a little bit. Fantastic book. Ref, not ref. I don't know what a ref is. Rest as Resistance by Dr. Trisha Hersey. Shout out to you. I don't know you, but I love your work. Fantastic, fantastic book. I cannot recommend it more. It talks about how rest, it has, it's not it's not as simple as us saying, I can't take a break right now because I'm a business owner or my family needs me or whatever. It's not as simple as that. It's actually a little bit more insidious, to be honest. It's more that the capitalist system that we have, particularly here in America, it's focused on America, but I think it does apply. A little bit of travel I have done does apply to other first world, if you want to call it, countries. The capitalist system that we have right now is built to extract as much as possible from the worker, from the creator, from the consumer, from the founder, from the creator, from the consumer. And you can use different terms for that trifecta. So we're all part of this system. We're all part of this game. The consumer wants to continue to buy things based on what they're told. But to buy things, you need to have money. To have money, you need to work. So many consumers are working overtime so they can keep up with the Joneses and fit into the advertising model or whatever deep conversation you want to have with that. But you know where I'm going with that application. The worker needs to continue to work because the systems are set up so that it might not be equitable for them. They don't necessarily have the power. Let's talk about unions and other things, but the average worker does not have the power to say, hey, I'm going to get a raise today. Hey, my kid is sick. I'm going to go and stay at home. They usually need to at minimum, get a cosign. Worst case scenario, they can't. They need to keep going. And of course, it falls to us as founders because the way things are built, we need to make an impact or want to make an impact in a certain way. But we might not get the resources that not even deserve, but actually need to make an impact in the world. The reason why I started a publishing company was because the publishers that I was in communication with, I'll put it like that, did not see the vision for this show. They did not see the vision for what became best-selling books. They didn't see the vision. They believed that the side hustle, the solopreneur, the non-traditional entrepreneurs, literally the 18,000 plus of y'all that have subscribed to this show to this day, the publishers I talked to said y'all did not exist. What? What? That's why I'm doing a whole thing with creative power strategy. Again, I mentioned at the top of the show, as far as finding your particular strategy to work within the system. Again, in case you missed, I did the episode 2 weeks ago. It's in the links. I just talked about at the top of the show. Be sure and check it out. That's why I'm doing the whole thing, because we need to find ways to work within the systems that we're in. Sorry, you got me hitting the microphone, but work within the systems that we're in. She gets into that and articulates it in ways she's got a PhD for a reason. Like, she's got it on a whole nother level. I love the book. I'm savoring it. I'm just taking my time reading it. Whew, it's such a good book. If you're not sure why you feel like you can't take a break, buy this book. It will explain to you why you feel like you can't take a break. If you want some healthy consumerism, support Dr. Hersey's stuff. You will not regret it. Okay? Fantastic book. Again, my favorite book so far this year, like by far. It ain't even close. Speaking of such, one of my other favorite authors, Brene Brown, shout out to her. How to Slow Down Without Losing Your Business. I've been mentioning this episode a lot because it's actually fit really well, particularly here in the summertime, here in America. And it's kind of that time when we want to slow down, when we feel guilt or shame around it. Brene Brown, super busy, focused on emotional intelligence, particularly guilt and shame. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I think it was February before last, she went on LinkedIn and our social media platforms. I'm really only on LinkedIn, but on the social media platforms. And she said, hey, I'm burning out. So I'm going to stop for a little while. I'll probably be back in the fall, but yeah. I got 2 podcasts and about 1,000 episodes on both of them. Yeah, right. Right. As Biggie said, if you want more game, just press rewind. Like, I already said what I got to say. And I need to take a break. And if you know her story, she's a recovering alcoholic. She's dealt with a lot of guilt and shame in her life. She's all like, I'm not going to go to the break so I can just keep creating. I don't care about the Netflix special. No, I'm gonna take a break. The way she did it was so graceful. I did a whole episode about it. Episode's about 15 minutes long. It's absolutely worth your time. Again, if you're struggling with guilt or shame around taking a break, definitely go ahead and see what's up with that. All right, so we're talking about specifically, if I can get my voice back. Suddenly my voice went away. My apologies. It was like, hey, it's 115 degrees. You don't need a voice, Damon. Why? How to run your business while on vacation. We just talked about why can't I take a break? If you're struggling with that, again, we just talked about it, but it comes down to maybe your to-do list is too long and you need some help, or you need to change those expectations. Maybe you're being a little bit too much of a perfectionist when it comes to how things are executed, or you feel like the timing is perfect right now, but then you have to ask yourself, is the timing perfect in a market universe standpoint, macro, as the economists say, or is it perfect because you really want to do it right now? If it's perfect because you really want to do it right now, that means you don't need to do it right now. That means you can actually be patient about it. Again, my name is Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth Show. I'm entrepreneurial coach, side hustler, solopreneurs. I got your back. I got your support. I'm with you. It's every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Vegas time. You subscribe for free. So, do you feel like you can't take a break? Why do you feel like you can't take a break? Jump into the comments. I'd love to hear your take on it. All right. So, it's like, all right, maybe I go in and take a break. I understand what's going on with that, but then maybe there's something deeper going on. If I can't afford to take a break, why should I? I get this question a lot from entrepreneurs I'm working with, where they're like, I could be making money, I could be making a legacy, I could be providing for my family, I could be getting a new customer. Why the heck should I take a week off? Why should I take a day off? Why should I take an afternoon off? Why should I stop and eat lunch? Damon, tell me why I should stop and eat lunch. Because I could be out here grinding and you're on that, you should rest. Well, there's a few reasons, and actually they directly impact, I would argue, the success of your company. The first reason why you should take a break, aside from the physical parts of it and all those things, we already addressed a little bit of that. We don't need to get into that. The first reason is that it means you're really building for the long term versus the short term. The short term is all-nighters. I used to live in Silicon Valley. In that era, it was Red Bull and vodkas. I'm not a fan of either, so that was not my culture. But it was living in SF, San Francisco. Shout out to y'all. At that era, it was folks that were much younger than me in their early 20s. Red Bull and vodkas, programming all night, doing UX, which is the user design, the user experience, all night, doing whatever it's all night, grinding it out in the hopes of spinning something up, as we used to say, spinning something up, some type of startup, some type of idea, so that they would get funding, or more importantly, be bought by, at the time, I think it was 5, because there's 5 major tech companies now. I think it was 6 at the time. One of the 6 major tech companies, including like Amazon or Apple or Facebook, which is now Meta. That was the energy. And let me tell you straight up, I was a journalist at the time. I wasn't even an entrepreneur yet. And I was reporting for the New York Post, shout out to them, and other folks, Playboy, shout out to y'all as well. And so I was outside, not just as a reporter, but just being part of the culture. And folks would be on that track. I've seen early 20-somethings, 22, 23, just out of college, come to SF. They have that lifestyle for a few months, maybe a year. And then suddenly they get the sunken eyes, and it's like they become shells of themselves. I've seen it. Like, even just thinking about it, you probably see it in my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I know some people got lost out there. I'll leave it at that. Some people got lost out there in that fast life. What I learned from that is that if you're not taking care of yourself, you're betting on the short term. What I always say to my coaching clients, if you're a coaching client of mine, I've almost guaranteed I've said this to you at one period of time or another during our sessions. Whatever system, whatever you're doing right now, is that sustainable 5 years from now? I'm recording this where you're hanging out with me live in 2024, summertime. So summertime, July, whatever month it is, July of 2029. Think about that. However you're treating your body, however you're treating your family, however you're treating yourself. Are you going to be good for, say, 2,000 days? That's about right, right? 1,800 days? Maybe closer to 1,500? Let's say 1,500 days. You going to do this for 1,500 days? It's not a threat. It's a promise. Because what we do regularly becomes our habits. And as one philosopher said, our habits become who we are. Because it's the stuff that we repeat. So if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not taking care and connecting with your family, chosen or blood family, I don't mean just your mama, chosen or blood family, people that you love, people that you care about. If you're not taking care of your customers, if you're really about the grind culture, if you're really about, I'm going to make an impact and my company's going to be worth $1 trillion, or my company is going to be on the cover of Inc. magazine. Shout out to Inc. magazine. I write for them. Is that the way you're going to do it? Because if you're really about that life, as we used to say, if you're really about that life, you'd be handling things differently. You'd actually be cultivating the patience. So if you're questioning, why should I take a break? My question is, why shouldn't you take a break? If you're interested in the longevity of yourself and your company, and even after you sell this company, longevity of yourself after that. All the neglect that we put into our bodies, our souls, our minds, emotionally, it's not like it goes away. As the famous book says, the body keeps score. It doesn't go away. And so whatever you're sacrificing, however you're sacrificing, it better be worthwhile. And often the sacrifices we make are so short-sighted that we're not able to do it. The business, which is BringItWorth.tv, is now part of that business. So you're experiencing part of my business. It's been around for more than a couple decades. I would not be around if I didn't take care of myself along the way. And that leads to the second reason why the pause makes sense, is that it allows you to have enough objectivity to actually strategize, to have the long-term thinking. I've taken a couple breaks with BringItWorth.tv. Like, I've done a few reruns here and there. I'm usually here every week, usually once a week. But I've taken some breaks and all that. And when I've taken those breaks, I'll be playing with my kids. They're still young enough where we play with Legos and stuff, which I appreciate that time. So we'll be playing with Legos or something. I'll be taking a shower. When it's not 1,000,000 degrees outside, I'll go take a walk. It's quite mountainous here in Las Vegas, believe it or not. I know a lot of y'all never left the Strip, but it's a whole bunch of mountains around if you look up. And so, doing really, really mild hikes, like on some local hills here in our neighborhoods. And that's when these ideas come, including some of the most popular episodes that you guys have really dug here on Bring It Worth TV. And so it gives you enough time to actually strategize. And some of the recommendations I'm about to give you will help you with that process. So number one, if you're really in it in the long term, if you're really about that life, and you're like, I'm going to go ahead and have a legacy like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, whomever, Tyler Perry, if that's more your vibe, whatever. You can't grind every single day at 24 hours a day. You can do that. But again, I'm middle-aged now. That stuff will catch up to you. Probably sooner rather than later. Again, I've seen it. I used to live in Silicon Valley. I've seen it. Trust me on this. So if you're really about the long term, eat that lunch. Take that nap. For God's sake, please take a shower. Touch some grass, as they used to say. So that's why you do it. Seth Godin, shout out to Seth, talks about this, where he's like, if you're not burning yourself out, you're of no use to anybody, especially your customer. So if you're really about serving the world and you burn yourself out, you're not going to be serving anybody, including yourself. It's better to go ahead and take the long cut, as he says, rather than the shortcut. Take your time. Every single business that I've built, including this one that you're watching right here, took time. From the couple, literally 10 subscribers to the 18,000 of y'all that are joining me now. If I was trying to push so hard where it had to be overnight, man, I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't be talking to y'all right now. I'd be probably somewhere asleep trying to catch up on my life. So that's number one. The second part of it is that when you actually do take a break, it gives you enough objectivity to actually strategize in a big way. This leads to my recommendation. Mike Michalowicz, shout out to you again. Great book called Clockwork. I know the macro part of it. I'm actually deep diving into some of the details of it, but I really like the book. Here's the basic idea. You should be able to create systems so that your business runs like clockwork. That's it. And so he talks about systems thinking, which I didn't realize until recent years, where I actually am a systems thinker, even when it comes to like organized stuff for like with my partner, for my kids and all that stuff. It's like, I'm always thinking systems. I'm like, okay, this happened. What system can we build so that, especially if something happens like 3 times, like what system can we build to make sure that we're good to go and this can, and we can go ahead and resolve this so it doesn't happen in the future. Not about making rules and regulations, more about, again, building systems, which is what we're really talking about here. If you're able to create a good system, you can actually stop. I was able to stop for a few days last week and nothing went off the rails. At least not I know. I'll keep checking around. But so far, that's because I have systems in place. Again, some of the stuff I'm recommending in this episode. What I love about Mike's book and his argument is that he takes you through what constitutes a good system. And it was a great analogy. I don't think it's mentioned, I think, briefly in the book, but I heard it when he was talking on a podcast. Love hearing him talk. He's a great speaker. And he was talking about how, I think it was with doctors, or it might have been specifically chiropractors, where if someone comes in with an issue in their, say, lower back, right, as I straighten up, in their lower back, what the chiropractor will ask about is how they sleep. Because sleeping affects your hips and how you sleep. So if you sleep upside down, like you're being held hostage, or you sleep on your back, or you sleep fetal position like a baby, you sleep with somebody, you're like spooning them, big spoon, little spoon, the 20 different sleeping positions. You know what I'm talking about. They'll ask about where your hips are. Because if there's misalignment in what's right below you, then what's right above you will compensate for it. So if you have lower back issues, they look at the hips. If you have hip issues, they look at your knees. If you have knee issues, they look at your ankles. I can keep going. I have a headache. Oh, that's because I'm stressed out and my shoulders are up. That's putting strain on my brain. Like clockwork. Great name. There's not a better name in the universe as far as I'm concerned. Whoever came up with the name, kudos for you. That's what he talks about in the book. If you do not have the systems in place to take a break, then you're absolutely right. You won't be able to take a break. If you're the sole proprietor, if you're the founder, even if you're the co-founder, no, it ain't gonna happen because the list is too long. But if you have systems in place and you're able to use the processes as Mike talks about in his book, maybe you can create a system where you can take a break and make it a little bit broader. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode as far as what our version of a break is. I think that's really important too. Anyway, congrats to Mike, and fantastic stuff going on there. All right. If you're going to go ahead and learn more about systems, and actually build a break, then you're going to have to work on systems. Sorry, got mixed up here again. Technology. You're going to have to build those systems. Those systems could be internal, or as talked about, they can be external. One of my favorite systems is Meet Edgar. Shout out to them. Solo female founder. Shout out to Laura. You're killing it. I love your work. Let me get over to Meet Edgar. There we go. We're going to show my Meet Edgar. And I'll make it a little bit broader so you guys can see what's happening. This is my Meet Edgar. And Meet Edgar is really simple. What it does is it says, okay, you want to push stuff out to social media. And if you're familiar with my work, I don't spend a whole lot of time on social media. This is one of the secrets. You want to push out stuff on social media some of y'all that I work with, some of y'all that are my colleagues, you say, I can't leave social media, Damon. I need to be on there all the time for engagement, and because myself, my business, or the people that I work for, that I consult for, whatever, they need their stuff pushed out. So I can't leave. I'm stuck. Excuse me. Even when I'm on vacation, I need to have my phone at all times. This helps with that. It basically says, Meet Edgar basically says, okay, you know what you want to post. And it might be what we call evergreen. So evergreen, just like the trees, they last forever. They're always in season. You know what I mean? They never go away. They don't really molt or shed. You can't tell what time of year it is based on looking at an evergreen tree for the most part, because they're always going to look the same. That's what it means by evergreen content, right? So a lot of the stuff that I do on Bring Your Worth TV is evergreen. We're always going to be talking about taking a vacation. It might be more pertinent during, say, holiday season, or during right now during the summer here in the United States, or in Australia, maybe 6 months from now when you guys have summer. But it's always going to be a pertinent topic. That's evergreen. Evergreen might be, hey, check out our website. We have these we have these wares for you, and let us know how we can serve you. That has no time limit on it. If you have content like that, Meet Edgar's like, bet. Go ahead and put your content into what we call a library, and then set up periods of time, as you can see, periods of time when it's going to post. And it's like, all right, Damon, so Monday at 5:45 a.m. on LinkedIn, that's when you want to share a Bring Your Worth episode. You got almost 400 episodes of Bring Your Worth. Put all the posts into our library, and then we're going to pick a random one, and we'll go and share it. The beauty about that is twofold. Number one, I don't need to do anything, right? Again, shout out to Laura and Meet Edgar. That's one. The second thing, right, so I can go about my business, again, hang out with my kids, whatever. The second thing is that it allows a level of randomness and freshness that I couldn't even do physically. You might go ahead and be on LinkedIn or a certain platform and see Bring Your Worth episode, I think it was episode 67, which is one of my most popular episodes. It's about Brene Brown and interacting with people that you don't like. In fact, I'm positive it's in the description below, because again, it's one of the most popular episodes. So I have it in the description if you want to check it out. I think it's episode 67. That was 300 plus episodes ago. Even though it's one of my most popular episodes on Bring Your Worth TV, even I forgot about it. And Meet Edgar's like, oh no, let's go ahead and get it out so other people can see this episode. Let's have people check it out. Or it could be an episode that's an underperforming episode, or something that few people have watched. Like I have one of my favorite episodes about the difference between price and cost. Super short episode, so proud of it. I love the concept. In fact, I got it from Seth Godin. Shout out to him again. And Meet Edgar might be like, okay, let's push it out. Totally random. And it's at the time of day that makes the most sense. And that's how the whole system's set up. It's really that simple. I love working with them. As you can tell, I'm enthused. I don't even use that word because I'm using it today. I'm enthused about them, and they are right. It's fresh. Thank you, Angel. I see you over on Amazon. It's fresh. It's fresh as hell, as we used to say. And so be sure and check them out. Links below. You'll get a bonus if you end up using my link. Go and see what's happening. See what's up. Like, yeah. Really good stuff. And let's go to one of my favorite episodes. I just did this recently. Yes, 389. Real recently. It was the last episode I did, but last official episode. There's other episodes on there. If you're a fan and subscribe, be sure to subscribe below if you didn't want to catch all the goodness. How pausing builds success. This is actually a compilation episode of 3 strong nuggets. And it's super short. I want to say it's like 6-7 minutes long, about why pausing matters. I talk about the Johari window, which is about how we can know ourselves and others. I talk about the systems and the awareness that we get when we pause. And I get into how we can figure out our priorities so that when we pause, we'll make sure our priorities are taken care of. And I love it. Angel, if you want to, thanks for the shout out. If you want to go and catch me, you can catch me over on LinkedIn, or as well as bringyourworth.tv. I'm live there right now. So thank you so much for the shout out over on Amazon. There's like 3 different platforms, so I'm trying to give love to everybody. So I appreciate you, Angel. So that one episode, which I have right there, I think is really crucial to this conversation. If you're going to pause, you need to have the correct reason to do so. Because you need to be motivated to create a system. You need to be motivated to get the support, as I talked about earlier in the episode. You have to be motivated to have the priorities that are down to like one index card and focus on those so that you have time to focus on what you really care about. You need to be motivated enough to do that. This episode hopefully will provide some of that for you. All right. Love the conversation. And as well as over on Amazon. So shout out to y'all over on Amazon. Again, my name is Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. I'm help side hustlers, solopreneurs, also non-traditional entrepreneurs. So if you're underrepresented and undersupported, if you're trying to do things while having little kids at home, which is my thing, or you got parents that you're taking care of, older relatives, shout out to y'all that are really supporting the caregiving, and you're trying to still make an impact on the world. I'm here to support you with that love. Bring Your Worth TV. This episode 390, as I talked about. There's 389 episodes behind us. Subscribe, check it out, have fun. There's a lot of topics that, as I've coached several hundred of y'all at this point, and there's so many topics that have come up in those conversations. I'm a one-on-one coach. So in those intimate, deep conversations that I've had with y'all, I try to do episodes that are related to those. So be sure and rewind it back, see what's going on. You subscribe for free. I think it's always going to be free. BringYourWorth.tv. And you get my latest book, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, at all the platforms. Got so many books up here, I got to find it again. Containing my 8 books, 7 or 8, I'm losing count, 7 or 8 books in the Bring Your Worth series so far. And that'll be the best hint I can give for y'all. All right. If you have any comments or questions, if you feel conflicted about where you can actually, if you can actually take a break, be sure and throw something in the comments. No links. Please no sneaky links in the comments. throw a comment in the comments, and we'll go from there. All right. Most important part. Thanks for staying with me. How do I schedule my break? It's like, all right, Damon, you got me. I thought I couldn't take a break, and then I thought I didn't need a break. You got me. I read the literature. I heard what you're saying. All right. How the hell do I actually schedule a break? Good question. There's 2 rules, and I've been a long time napper. I've managed to schedule breaks, and people, particularly now I've become a coach over the last 10 years. People are all like, well, how do you did 27 books. How would you actually take a break? How does that happen? Here's the 2 keys for me. The first thing is to look at it as a periodical thing. Look at it as a lifestyle change versus, say, retirement. I have elders that are looking at retirement. I have elders that are in retirement right now. It's like, I don't need to retire. You probably don't need to retire. Shout out to y'all that are dealing with chronic illnesses and other things where you need an extended break. Love to y'all. I coach some of y'all. If you need to do that, do what you need to do. For a lot of us, though, we just need like a minute to breathe, a moment to reflect. We can't put that in. Most days I meditate for 5 minutes on my little meditation mat, either over here or, over in the bedroom, depending on where the boys are at, because my boys get pretty loud, but I find a space for it. And that's my little respite. On most days, most weekdays, I squeeze in a nap, usually for 45 minutes. It works with my body. I took a nap today, especially it's hot as heck today. Hot as fish grease today, as they used to say. So I took a little break, and that's why I'm able to have this hour-long conversation with y'all and keep my energy up. A break is walking to the neighborhood store, the bodega, if you're over in the hood, shout out to y'all on the East Coast, or to the grocery store where I'm not in the hood, it's a grocery store, and you end up taking that walk, and it's like 10 minutes. There's ways that you can introduce it in. It doesn't have to be a black and white thing. It's called a zero-sum game, if you want to get into the psychology of it. And so many of us look at taking a break as a zero-sum game. Oh man, I need a break so bad. It needs to be in Turks and Caicos. It needs to be at the 5-star Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And my wife and I are going to be there. And oh yeah, we got to bring the Bro, suddenly it went from I need a moment to breathe to let me go and plan this $20,000 vacation. Probably more than that. I've never been to Turks and Caicos for that reason, right? You just save up a little bit more for that. Do you understand what I'm saying? We can elevate it so high. Or we can say, I'm going to go and take a week off, but after I finish this massive project. Again, so much is built into it that it can fall apart really quickly. And with that in mind, make it more periodical. If the weather is nice, then number one, eat lunch. But number two, eat your lunch outside for 5 minutes. Even if you're scarfing it down, just take a breath. There's ways that we can rest that don't require these huge commitments. Because then it becomes more of an executive function slash perfectionism slash this such massive goal that ends up not happening, and we end up not taking a break at all. So our standards end up getting so high that we end up overwhelming ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. Let me put the psychobabble to the side. We end up making the goal so high as far as what our break is going to be that we end up overwhelming ourselves and not making a break at all. And then before we know it, you got extra gray hairs, not a few of them, and it is retirement, and you're exhausted for real, and you might even have some problems because of it. And maybe your fam doesn't know you because you've been grinding it out the whole time. Maybe you don't know yourself. That's a deep one. Because you've been grinding out the whole time because you haven't stopped. Is that worth it? I don't think so. So, number one, focus on the periodical, the little things. It doesn't have to be the massive 5-star resort vacation. Because once you get there, you're not going to know how to rest anyway. I read about this in the original Fights as an Entrepreneur, which again is in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. It's like, if you're used to grinding it and they're ingrained in your habits, you've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, you think once you get that villa, hopefully, I wish you well, you think you're going to be able to relax? Dude, you're 30 years out of habit. Start building that now. Shout out to Tim Ferriss, who came up with the concept of a mini retirement, where you take like a couple weeks off. You take a sabbatical for a month. Do that. But banking everything on this thing, and yeah, you can tell it's a touch point for me. I can talk about this all day, because once you get to that point where you actually can take that long-term break, that dream vacation, some of us don't make it. Real talk. Either physically, mentally, emotionally, we're not able to do it. Or by the time we get there, we ain't here. I mean, for real. You're on permanent vacation. You're gone. I want better for y'all. You deserve better. If we're gonna sacrifice all this stuff to make our impact on the world as independent entrepreneurs, as side hustlers, as solopreneurs, then don't sacrifice yourself. Keep yourself around so that you can actually enjoy the world that you're building. Keep yourself around so that you can actually enjoy the world that you're building. And the best way to do that is to take care of yourself along the way. So that's the first level. Don't worry about the big fancy break or vacation. Focus on the periodical. The 5-minute meditations in the morning. Spend an extra 5-10 minutes in the shower. If you're paying your water bill and it's not harming anybody, spend an extra 5-10 minutes in the shower. Take a bath and then just sit. I love taking baths. Do something that fits your particular environment, that fits your resources, that's small enough so that you can start doing it immediately. Do that. The second thing, which often can get us into trouble, is please be transparent if you're going to take a break. Let people know. When I was gone for a couple days last week, I let people know. I was like, yeah, that meeting, yeah, I'm not, yeah, we might need to shift that because no. I had a couple overseas clients, and I was like, yeah, that's what Americans do. 4th of July, this year is on a Thursday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's pretty much a wash. Not for me, but in general, that's how we do. Just being honest about it. If you knew my clients, you could ask them. They knew. And it's like, and I have family stuff going on? Like, yeah, I'm going to be out of office for a day or two. And traveling, I'm really going to be out of office. So be transparent about it. Again, the Brene Brown example, in links below, if you happen to miss the earlier part of the episode. She was super transparent, which was why I adore how she handled it. She's like, look, I'm burning out. I'll see y'all in a minute. I got 1,000 episodes of I think she might have three different podcasts. Listen to those. Rewind, check it out. I need to get refreshed because if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of y'all. I can't show up in the way that I promised to. So I need a break. Be honest. You don't have to give 5 million different reasons. You don't have to say, no, I'm burning out, so I can't see y'all. You don't need to do that. You can just say, hey, like a dentist appointment. I just had one a few weeks ago. You don't feel guilty about a dentist appointment, right? It's like, I want to keep my teeth. I'm going to go see the dentist, get a cleaning or whatever. Get feedback, get some x-rays. Treat it like a dentist. I'm going to take Friday afternoon off. I don't know if I am, but let's just say I'm going to take Friday afternoon off. Okay. Out of office. Done. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. So number one thing is to focus on doing the periodical, the things that you can do, execute right now. Super simple. Literally right now, in the next 24 hours. What's that one thing you can do that will give you a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of rest? And the second thing is to give other people a heads up. Not that you're taking a break per se, but that, you might not be available. You don't have to give them details. Just do your thing. If you're going to take a break, one of my favorite tools to do so, shout out to Beehive. I just transferred my newsletter. I talked about it earlier at joindamon.me. It's free. The link is right below. And I just transferred over the Beehive at the top of the year. I couldn't be more happier. More happy? Just say more happy. Working on the English today. More happy. I couldn't be more happy. Beehive works like this. Let me go ahead and give you all the game. Straight up. I don't know why I'm making noises, but that's how it works. All right. Again, hopefully the tech will work for me. I think we're, for those watching at home, literally, I think we're at about 116 degrees right now. So yes, I'm going to start to wrap up this live before literally my stuff overheats because I'm using the camera and other stuff. I am not kidding. We have good air conditioning too. Doesn't matter. When tires are melting, it's hardcore. All right. Beehive, newsletter platform built for growth, for creators by creators. True. It was actually founded by, Morning Brew? I think it's the founders of Morning Brew. Shout out to y'all. And one of their names is Tyler, and I forget the name of the other folks involved, but shout out to y'all. But they decided to start a newsletter platform. And it is really straightforward. Again, free trial. The link is below. I think you might even get a bonus if you end up using my link. And it's set up really straightforward. It's almost like publishing a blog. If you guys are old school and you remember like a WordPress and stuff like that, it's like publishing a blog. So you don't have to do the heavy coding. You don't have to learn HTML or JavaScript or anything crazy. The cool part about it too, which I believe they have it on this first page. This is the one. I'm the passive income guy. This is the conversation. They're fantastic because they actually will connect you with ad opportunities. So if you get the newsletter at joindamon.me, you see there's advertising in there. More like sponsorship, super light, nothing intrusive. They will actually partner you with folks who want to advertise in your newsletter. And then often you'll get paid per click. So if a certain amount of people, let's say 10 people click the sponsorship portal, whatever you want to call it, on your newsletter, you get paid, let's say $1 per click or $2 per click, whatever. And then that's paid by the company who's sponsoring it. And then that ends up in your bank account, I think, usually within 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes faster, depends on the company. So within the month, you're getting paid for that. The reason I bring this up when it comes to rest is that you can schedule these. Again, you notice a pattern. I talked about Strikingly, which allows you to do e-commerce really smoothly. Again, the link is below. You can watch the earlier part of the episode for that, or the full episode if you're watching the clips. The link is below for all of that. You have Meet Edgar, which allows you to keep your socials going, even when you're away, even when you're out of the country. Been there, done that. It's fantastic service for that. And lastly, with this one, with the newsletter, you can schedule them as far as advance as you want. If I know I'm going to be out of town and I have a weekly commitment to have a newsletter to you guys at joindamon.me at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, every Wednesday. I know I'm going to do it every Wednesday. So sometimes I'm doing the newsletter, frankly, the night before to go and make sure I get the latest information in there, because it might be related to something I'm doing with Bring Your Worth TV, or a new article that comes out, or a new opportunity that's come through. But sometimes I'll go and do the newsletter like well in advance, and it's scheduled in there, it's organized, the advertising set up, and it's good to go. This is a case of when I first started my newsletter way back in the day. I'm going to tell you how long it was, but let's say it was more than a decade. When I started my newsletter back in the day, then it was me literally BCCing, which means blind CC, which means I was sending it to everybody, but no one else could see the email addresses. And that was me doing it it became a couple hundred people. And I was like, okay, I need to come up with a different system. I work with other platforms. The other platforms are fine, but this one works really well, because then I'm able to go ahead and organize it. People can subscribe. Again, the links are right below. You subscribe right now. It's all automated. And then you'll start getting my newsletters next Wednesday. And if you go to joindamon.me, all my newsletters are archived. So if you missed a newsletter, you're welcome to go ahead and check it out. The archive goes back to, say, February of this year. So it goes back about 5 or so months, maybe 6. So fantastic stuff. It will allow you to get a little bit more space. If we're going to be talking about systems and long-term, we got to talk about the book Upstream by Dan Heath. One of my favorite books, literally of all time, especially when it comes to system thinking. Upstream is a basic idea. If there's stuff going on, and there's actually a parable in the book that talks about this, that's where the upstream comes from. If you think about a river, and there's garbage going into the river, and where the river's flowing this way, downstream. Upstream is at the top of the river, downstream is at the bottom of the river. I used to live in New Orleans, so I take that for granted, but before I moved there, I didn't really even think about it. But upstream, top of the river, downstream, bottom of the river. Let's say all this garbage is coming into the river, and we're downstream, and we keep seeing all this garbage, and we keep taking the garbage out. And it's like, this is frustrating. We're using so many resources, so much time. We're sweating, getting all this garbage out. I'm so sick of dealing with this garbage. We can leave it at that and just say, we need to put systems in place to get the garbage out. So we need to have people taking turns getting the garbage out, because there's garbage in there every day. Or we can go upstream. And to do that, we have to first ask the question, where is the garbage coming from? We so often do not, as humans, as people, myself included, we don't question where the garbage comes from. All we know is that there's garbage here, we need to handle it. Let's get it done. Our to-do list. Let's keep it going. I just need to get through this. I need to push through this. I need to keep it going. Because I can't afford to stop. I can't stop. The theme of this episode. But what if we just paused, just for a millisecond, and said, hey, we seem to be burning ourselves out. We're getting, oh man, you guys know me. I love travel. Today's episode is business travel on a budget. This matters for so many different reasons for us as solopreneurs, as side hustlers, as non-traditional entrepreneurs, as I am. When I did my 2 startups while I was stay-at-home dad with my partner and I's first son. He was from when he was around 4 months old to selling my second startup when he had turned 2 years old. He just turned 11. So, I've been in the game for a little while. Most of the time afterwards has been, of course, spending time with my family and supporting y'all. When you're in those positions as a non-traditional entrepreneur, you usually have limited resources. I talk about this in Build From Now. It seems to be the theme of the day, where you're limited on your time, you're limited on your energy. I'm middle-aged. Might see some of the gray hairs here. Or, what we talk about the most is you're limited on your finances. But you still want to have a touch point with the people that you're trying to serve. When my 2 co-founders and I started Cuddler, which is the biggest startup I was a part of, we bootstrapped it. At our peak, we had about 250,000 or so users. I was still emailing and connecting with people every day. That was my main role, was co-founder as far as the marketing, getting out there, as well as with I guess you'd call it the community management, we call it nowadays. And I still have a little bit like carpal tunnel because of those days, even though that was almost 10 years ago. My point is that we're able to have that growth partially because I did create that intimacy with Cuddler, which was an app that connected people for hugs. So if you're going to have a Tinder or a Grinder kind of app, but a platonic version of it, and it's connecting people for hugs, then are you going to have a chat bot, which was just coming into vogue at the time? You're going to have a chat bot do it? No, you can do it yourself. My whole point is that we need to find ways to create that intimacy because we're solopreneurs, because we're side hustlers. But our resources might be limited as far as how we can actually connect with people and do that work. Some of those limitations are based, in my case, on travel. Like, okay, you got 2 little kids at home. I had a second son. So you got 2 little kids at home. How are you going to travel? Okay, well, there's a mortgage to be paid. And, your startup isn't making money yet. So how are you going to afford that trip, to go see a venture capitalist or to go to this conference that's still focused on that? So this is a really important episode to me because if you're struggling with that and you're dealing with that, I've been in your shoes. Because you want to create that non-scalable experience, as they call it, those things that can't scale, that create that intimacy, right? That one-on-one conversation, that flight to see that one client, those kind of things. But oftentimes it's coming out of our pocket or coming out of our business budget. We're going to talk about 3 efficient ways that you can actually do the business travel to create that intimacy without breaking the bank. And today's episode is sponsored by Navin Travel, the ultimate manager of your business travel. Thank you so much for the support. I just talked with them earlier this week. Loved the conversation. I was like, I gotta share it with my people here. So that's how they came aboard. It's all about travel today. Let's go and take a quick look at Navin and see what they're doing, because they are doing some fascinating stuff over there. And the best thing I can do is show you. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to do it live. There it is. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right. Looking good. All right. Feel like Matthew McConaughey today. All right. So it looks very basic right here, right? You're like, oh, okay. It's kind of a, basic third party, but it's deeper than that. The first thing you need to know about Navin is that it's actually free. There's no cost to you. So it's completely free to use. Which again goes back to being mindful of the budget. It's like, yeah, let's be thoughtful about that. The second thing it does is that it actually organizes all your information. So from the group travel things, if you're traveling with your family, or even if you're traveling with your co-founders. So with my co-founders and I, back when I did Cuddler, we traveled together. We went together. Last trips we did was visit WWDC, which is a big developers conference for Apple. It was even bigger than it is today. It was really big at the time. So we met up in San Francisco, hung out there. It was actually a really good time. And that was a few months before we sold the company. So it was a great experience to meet in person. I wish something like this existed, because we did have a certain budget and we were trying to get organized in a certain way. It organizes all your stuff for you. And so you have your company account, you go ahead and do the basic thing. Las Vegas, which is where I'm based, already have a loyalty program here. You guys know I'm hardcore Delta, so Delta's already in here. They got all the programs, and so they will organize that for you. Now, we're gonna get into that a little bit later on in the show as far as, did you know that your company actually can have a frequent flyers program as well? That goes, I believe, for hotels as well, but definitely for airlines. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, it keeps all that in order. As you can see, your flights. Let's say I'm trying to go to Dubai. There you go. Never been there before, but hint, look forward to going there in the future. Flights, hotels, trains, love trains, as well as rental cars, right? So you got the basics covered. The thing you need to know about Navin is that they actually started as very, very corporate, big B2B, business to business. So we're talking the major companies, you name a major startup, and they probably have been working with Navin for years. A well-funded company, they've been working with the big guys for a little while. The shift happened where a few months ago, I want to say about 6 to 9 months ago, from talking to them, suddenly they're like, well, let's go ahead and give this to the side hustlers, the solopreneurs, the small and medium-sized businesses. How can we give them these same powerful tools? So you're having the same stuff that the big guys have. So it's organizing all your info from passports. It's actually logged to my account, so I'm not going to show you that part because you don't need my passport info. That's why I'm being a little bit coy with it. But you see, I'm logged in. So the passport information, your loyalty programs, all those other things. It actually connects to the different rewards programs. If you click to that, it actually connects to the different rewards programs. Again, we'll click on this again. That's my Sky Miles number. If you guys want to give me points, go for it. That's my Bond Boy number too. Hey, feel free to use my number. But it'll automatically organize that. So with a lot of third-party organizers or platforms, then they'll go and say, okay, you can do it through us, but then you're going to have to work it out with, with Delta, with Marriott, with whomever, and set that up. You're just going to have to work it out with them. There's often a gap. Again, I'm not going to name names, but I've been in situations where I haven't gotten the points I'm supposed to get. Number one, they're connected directly to the place they get the points. I'm the points guy, not Brian Kelly. Shout out to him. Hope you're doing well. But I am a points guy where I'm really into the points. So those points are being pushed over, as well as, which I'll get into later on in the episode, the business points that you're getting for your business. Those are being transferred over. And so this is the same as booking directly through them, except of course it's highly organized. What I really like about this though, this is what takes it over the top. Because yeah, Damon, okay, there's a lot of great details. It's aggregate, yeah. What I love about this is, we'll get to the group travel. You can actually set parameters, whether it's you, if you're the founder, if you're a co-founder and you're handling the budget, if you're a CEO, and you have people who work with you, such as an executive assistant or other folks and you're all going to be traveling at the same time. You can actually set parameters to what travel is being done. So you can go and say, okay, we're going to go to Sheboygan. I think that's in Wisconsin. We're going to go to Sheboygan and we're going to hang out there. All right, bet. Alice, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and book your flight, whatever works best for your schedule. And Dwayne, go and book your flight as long as we go here and we're going to be staying at this hotel. You can put these parameters into Nav Travel and say, okay, when Alice is booking your trip, they can do anything as long as it's not over $500, because it shouldn't cost $500 to fly to Sheboygan. Or that's our budget. Then using AI as well as other parameters are able to work within that. In other words, it gives you the space to go ahead and say, I'm going to set up these parameters. Whoever is working for my company, even if it's my co-founders, whatever, they can do it themselves and work within that. So personally, I do a lot of public speaking. I've spoken at the different TED conferences and other things. And whenever I get a speaking gig, I learned early on, I want them to go ahead and give me money for the travel or to bake it into whatever my pay is. And then I'll go and book it myself. Now, I'm a travel nerd, so of course I want to book it myself, but it's also a matter of booking it myself because particularly when I really got serious about public speaking, and I'm pointing over there because these little kids were here, and I'm a stay-at-home dad. So it might be me doing a red eye to get to Bogota, shout out to Bogota, to do a speech down there. And then I fly back that evening and do the long flight. So my crazy schedule, particularly at that time, they're a lot older now. It was a lot easier when I was flexible with it. It provides you with that. So it's one less thing you need to handle. It's free. If you use my link below, go in there. I talk to them. It's free to y'all. So have a blast and use that as your travel hub and have lots of fun with it. Thanks so much for them for sponsoring the show. And hopefully that'll give you some good insight. So shout out to Navin. Again, all the links are below. Feel free to subscribe and to check out Navin at this point too. All right. I love when technology works. All right. So the first step, if you're trying to get on a budget with your travel and you still need to go places, is to create a business account. I hinted at this earlier in the episode. Excuse me. This is a really key thing. There's two different frequent flyer accounts that you have. And we're going to focus on airlines. There's the frequent flyer number, which you saw my frequent flyer number. So the frequent flyer number, where it's just it's not like a social security number. It's not a secret thing. Again, I just showed mine earlier in the episode. But you put that in when you book a ticket, and then when you fulfill that particular flight, then you get the points for it. That frequent flyer number is tied to your status. So when I had elite status earlier on Delta, or way back in the day when I had executive platinum, I think that's what it was called, on American Airlines, then they actually will show you certain seats that aren't available to people that don't have status, et cetera, et cetera. You might be able to have a little bit of a heavier bag. You might get a drink free when you're on the plane. All those different perks, you're probably familiar with those. What you might not know, though, is that there's a whole separate program for all the major carriers. The big three, as well as, I'm thinking of the Kendrick lyric. It's like, not the big three, it's the big me. But there are three big ones that have this, but so do some of the smaller ones. I believe Alaska has them. I don't think Southwest does, but I have some relatives that fly Southwest a lot. They probably have a business version of that. But it's available to us, not just, again, similar to Navin, the sponsor of this episode. It's available to us. Like, so you don't have to be this big corporation. You can be just a few degrees higher than a solopreneur and have other people flying for you that are part of your business, your assistants, whatever, and then you can go ahead and sign up for this. The three different ones for the big three are Delta, which is, my one right now. Again, all the travel episodes, I'm always talking about Delta. I love them as a carrier, and I think they're fantastic. I've been on Delta Business for quite a while. Yeah, but they have Delta Business, there's United Business, and there's American Airlines, of course. American Business, not American Business, not the country, but the airline. What's great about these is, and all the links are below if you missed it, are two different things. First of all, you're able to set up this whole different frequent flyer program based on your business flights. So if I'm flying and I happen to buy tickets for my partner and my kids and all that stuff, then it's like, yeah, I might have a credit card and might get points from that. But other than that, I'm just getting points for whatever my thing is, right? So whatever Damon Brown is flying on, that's what I get points for in the traditional thing. With the business program, you actually get points for when you and or other people within your organization, people that are working with you or for you, are actually flying. Those perks, they get individual perks, that's an opportunity, but you're also getting perks because you are the business owner, you are the one in charge. If you happen to have a big enough business where you have a travel manager, or that kind of thing, someone who organizes that stuff, that would be their role. But there's a certain amount of points that come back to the organization. The second thing is that those points aren't just, I get a certain amount and I can get a free ticket to Dubai or whatever. Dubai seems to be the theme today. But it's not just that. It's also these other perks that don't cost as many of these particular business points. So it could be a drink coupon. It could be an upgrade from main cabin to Comfort Plus, which is, of course, the Delta version of it. But kind of that space between coach and first class, it might be X amount of business points. And then you're able to upgrade them. Doesn't cost you anything. There's no fees. Done. And in fact, that's number 3. All these programs are free. So you can join them like right now. The requirements for them are all different. Some of them, and they're always changing, some of them require you to have at least 3 or so other people that are flying with you to be considered a business. And it could be your assistant. It could be someone that helps you with your business. It doesn't have to be strictly an employee, but someone that's involved with your business. You also sometimes need to verify that you actually have a business, whether that's a EIN number or giving your website or whatever, but it's relatively smooth. Even when I had a smaller business than I have today, I was able to join these programs. It's absolutely worthwhile. And you can actually add this business number, which again, it's a separate number. You can add this business frequent flyer number to your regular flights, to your business flights. And so you're getting your regular frequent flyer points, and then you're getting your business frequent flyer points, and it doesn't cost anything extra. So take advantage of that. If you're going to be flying all around the country and you're going to be doing all this stuff, in my case, back in the day, flying all around the world to different places, if you're going to do that, you might as well maximize your miles. Again, shout out to Brian Kelly again over at the Points Guy, but it's the way, as they used to say, of double dipping. You're taking one flight, but you're getting the equivalent of twice as many points for it, twice as many miles. And as I think it was last year where I did a little bit more traveling, because with a sheltering in place, I'm just starting to get back into traveling. I think it was last year where my business points like really added up. And I wasn't even checking on them. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was able to use those for different things for my business. So it really comes in handy. That would be my first number one tip. Do it right now. Do it right now. All the links are below. If there's one like Alaska or Southwest, or I think JetBlue might have one, just go to their website and see if they have it. I couldn't list all of them here, but majority of the major ones have it, and definitely the big three have it as well. We are talking about business travel on a budget. How are you budgeting your business travel? How are you maximizing your points? And have you set up a business account already? Have you set up a business account with the airlines? I think some of the hotels have it as well. I'd love to hear your comments. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth. I come to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free and on all the platforms, either the link below or follow, check in, whatever they're calling nowadays. I spend so little time on social media compared to other things that they keep changing names. I'm like, I don't know, but you know what button to hit, and then you'll be seeing this mug, once or twice a week as we go forward. So number one, you want to go ahead and create a business account. Please do that. Let me know if you've already done that, and give me some game. Maybe there's some insight that you have that I don't have. Love to hear more about that. Second thing is do the insurance. This is an important thing. Do the insurance. It's become a little bit more commonplace now, but even back in the day, when you do a hotel, or particularly when you do an airline purchase and you're going overseas, they have that option to say, all right, are you going to insure this? And it usually, I should have looked up the percentage. Maybe if you know, you can tell me in the chat. But it usually ends up being a percentage of how much the flight costs. So it might be 1% of the flight. I don't know, maybe a little bit more, 2% of the flight. So if you have a $1,000 flight that you're doing, then it might cost you $20. It's usually not that expensive. When you do that, you're able to go ahead and say, all right, this happened, I need to get out of this. I've recently had a funeral in the family. We're doing okay, but everybody's been pretty sad about it. That happened to hit when we were traveling. So that forethought to say, do the insurance, that's for situations like that. So instead of giving a call to the hotel or the airline, whatever, and saying, hey, we had a death in the family, the funerals happened on this day, we can't make it on there, but you can just skip all that rigmarole. Instead, you go ahead and send information to Alliance with a Z is one of them that's really popular. You'll see that in the airlines. There's some other ones, but again, they're easy to find because they've actually collaborated with these travel companies to actually allow the insurance. So yes, you might have got an excellent deal on your flight or your hotel, and you're like, I want to pay exactly $500. And if I go ahead and get this insurance, it's going to be $510. I don't feel good about that. I can get like that sometimes. I understand. You got my sympathy. I hear you. But then that $10 that's not, as painful as being in a situation where you have to take this trip, or you're not able to say goodbye to a loved one or whatever because you can't change the situation, or you just lose a ton of money because you decide not to go. So take advantage of that. It's worth the money. Again, it's a lot easier than it was back in the day where you have to get the travel insurance separately. And it's like, oh my gosh, who wants to go through that? I've been through that a few times, and just do it. A good opportunity that we have is a new place called Safety Wing Nomad Insurance. Yeah, it sounds like my kind of thing, right? If you're familiar with my work, since we all tend to be on our own, and I'm definitely in the solopreneur camp. Shout out to Safety Wing. They have two different sets of insurance. Insurance for nomads. I think a lot of my 20s and 30s, I was a nomad, so I moved so much and all those things. So that would fit me. Not so much now. I'm pretty, I'm not going anywhere like that. Vegas is going to be home for a little while, that kind of thing. So for nomads, so if you're traveling a lot, particularly if you're traveling outside of the country, they will hook you up with that. Then, which ties into the bigger business thing, depends on the size of your business. I've been a solopreneur for a while, so the nomad insurance makes sense. But if you have people And some of y'all that I coach, you got people, right? Let me get my people. Let me talk to this person. I need this person to be there because they do this role. You're of another scale. They got you covered. Insurance for remote teams. And so that fits the current lifestyle. That's why I wanted to highlight this today, because it fits the current lifestyle that we have today. Both of them are fantastic. One, as it says, is for individuals and families. So again, I got little ones. We're not as little as they used to be, but I'm covered in insurance now. But if I needed to, then they'll be the hookup. And of course, remote teams for companies. So they have different products, different situations here, and then you get more details as far as how they work, where they work. What I like about them, and that's actually the bird thing, just cracks me up. Having your home country on the internet. What I love about this discussion is basically saying, okay, you can be in Morocco, you can be in Colombia, you can be in Japan, all places that I've been. And some of those times I've been in those places, I wasn't covered like that. Blue Cross Blue Shield wasn't trying to hook me up in Bogota. You know what I'm saying? And I know friends, people I care about, who got sick overseas. Luckily, I was not one of them. You hear me knocking on wood, for real. So it's better, again, to get the insurance, get the coverage, especially we are all getting older. So I'm not as healthy as I was in the past. I don't spring back as much because I'm middle-aged. A lot of us, and in fact, a lot of y'all that are watching are going into that phase too, right? Where it's not just, flying overseas, staying in a hostel for 7 days, which I've done before. Some of y'all have done too. Some of y'all that I've coached have had that lifestyle. But as you start to phase out of that, as you start to have little kids, or maybe you have older parents you need to take care of, maybe you have a team and you got people to take care of. This is a really smart way to do it without you having to, to go into the open health insurance marketplace here in America and then hope that they cover you when you're hanging out in Osaka. This is a great way to do it. So shout out to Safety Wing. Really fascinating stuff that they're doing over there, for sure. If you want more insight into how you can travel without even without needing insurance at all, and you might be in a position where you're like, yeah, Damon, I'm traveled out, I'm not going anywhere. No. Here are ways you could travel without leaving home. I think it's a really important discussion. Some of y'all that I support, either y'all are viewers or I have one-on-one coaching with y'all. You can learn more about my coaching practice at DamonBrown.net if you're interested. You might not physically be able to travel because of a chronic illness, or, we talk about spoons culture, right? How many spoons do you have today? Like, how much energy do you have today? You might not be able to travel in this season. You might be like, no, I need to rest. Wonderful people that I know. Shout out to Ellie Cole, who's supporting the sickle cell community. I've learned so much about them over the last few months. Shout out to her. But so many people within my network are dealing with or are connected to people who are dealing with those types of things. It might be a thing where you got little kids at home, as I was for the first couple of years of our first son's life. And it's like, maybe you're not traveling like that. This is a great way to travel without leaving home. Check it out. If you are going to be on the road, Smart Holiday Travel 2024. Don't be fooled by the title of it. It happened to come out during the holidays. I wouldn't say it came out in the holidays here in the United States. I want to say December, which feels like every religion has some type of ceremony in December, including my Hindi in-laws and my fam over there. But it fits that motif. But all things that I talk about apply to everything, including business travel. Be sure and check it out. Check out the vibe there and see what's happening. But yeah, do the insurance. Do the insurance. If you're staying at home, fine, don't do the insurance. But if you're going to be on the road, do the insurance. And it could be, again, you paying the 1 or 2% of the cost of the trip to do the alliance or whatever respective insurance they're offering. Most of the time they offer it right at checkout. Really easy. They'll put it right into the same credit card or wherever you're using. Doesn't have to be a separate thing. And you'll get a little contract. You don't have to sign it, but just a contract in your email later on. It'll be like, okay, this is the guidelines. Great, you're good. Or if you're actually going to be traveling and you want to make sure that you're covered health-wise, you and your people as applied, then check out Safety Wing. Again, the link is below. Shout out to them for the interesting work they're doing over there. Today we're talking about how to do business travel on a budget. So important. How are y'all connecting with folks? Do y'all usually do insurance, or do you do special travel insurance through like a credit card? Some of the credit cards offer that. How are you guys handling insurance? Have you been sick on the road before? How did you handle that? I always have a fear of that. Luckily, knock on wood, it hasn't happened to me, but that sounds wild. How did you deal with that when that happened? Feel free to jump in the comments and let me know what some of your experiences have been. I'm sure other people will appreciate that too. All right. So number 1, create a business account. Number 2, do the insurance. And number 3, so I get this other banner off. My fingers are not cooperating today. Number 3, maximize your purchases. Maximize your purchases. I look at it like this. There's been some years where I've spent maybe not tens of thousands of dollars, but definitely thousands and thousands of dollars on travel, to hotels, to conferences, especially when I was starting off early, and it was like I wasn't getting paid like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I got to fund my own way and then speak at this event or network at this event. I was spending a lot of money. If you're going to spend all that money, you might as well maximize it. My personal approach, which has helped me a lot, is to experiment with the different brands. Like, we'll talk about the brands we talked about earlier in the episode. Experiment with Delta, American Airlines, and United. Take a flight with, take one trip and fly with one, take another flight with another. See where their hubs are. You know, if you're close to a hub, I live in Las Vegas, so everything's kind of out here. So I kind of got the cheat code by living here. Kind of like living in New York. It's kind of that kind of vibe where a lot of them go direct. But if you're living in Phoenix, I know American Airlines has a hub there, right? If you're in Chicago, I used to live in Chicago, shout out to Northwestern, then United is the hub there, right at O'Hare. If you're living in Atlanta, Delta is the hub there, but they also have smaller hubs. If you live by one of those hubs, then your flights are probably going to be cheaper, and et cetera, et cetera. But once you make that decision, personally, what's worked for me is to stick with it. Not to go with whoever's cheaper, but to stick with it. And I say that for a few different reasons. Number 1, you're able to, as I talked about previously in the episode, you're able to build up those particular frequent flyer points or perks. And as I talked about earlier, and all the links are below if you happen to miss that part of the segment, each of the major carriers, and even some of the smaller ones, have 2 different sets. They have the frequent flyer points, and of course they have the business points, which you talked about earlier in the episode. You're going to start racking those up. If you take, again, back to the airlines, if you take United one time, and then you take Southwest next time, and then you take Delta this time, and it's like your points can be all over the place. And maybe over the course of several years, you'll be able to accrue enough to, get yourself a drink coupon, or maybe get yourself a one-way flight. It's the economics, and it is economics, of the flights as well as the hotels are so tough nowadays that it's better that you're loyal to a certain thing. You can also learn the ins and outs of certain carriers or certain hotels. Like, I like Marriott hotels a lot, but I know them inside and out. I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I know what my experience is going to be. If you're doing a red eye, and I'm on the West Coast, so red eyes aren't uncommon for me to get to the East Coast or somewhere overseas. That was overseas earlier this year. If you're doing a red eye, and then you're deciding to do Hilton this time, and you're going to do La Quinta next time, new motels like that. Like, you don't know. I like to have the consistency. So I would recommend, that's the strategy that's worked really well for me. I would recommend picking one and trying to stick with it. Even if you sometimes have to pay a premium, I think the consistency helps. And then you're able to rack up those things. Me working with Marriott, as well as me working with Delta, there's so many free flights, so many free hotel rooms, and things I've gotten because I've been loyal to those particular things. But again, if you're not sure, I'd recommend taking maybe the rest of this year, if you're doing a lot of flights, and try the different carriers. See what you like, what you don't like. And that might be part of the vibe. Another thing, if you're going to be spending all this money, I would recommend grabbing a credit card. Now, Number one has to depend on financially where you're at. Please be careful with credit cards. I've been there. It's really easy to have too much on there and go crazy. So my instance that I'm talking about is there's a flight you need to get. Your company and or you can afford it. You pay with a credit card, and then you take the money from that business account or from your account and you pay for it. That's what I'm saying. Don't just put it on there. No. Again, been there before. We've all made those kind of challenges and mistakes. Most of us have, at least. Shout out to you if you have not. I certainly am not above that at all. But this is the vibe that I'm talking about right here. And it's a thing of maybe you do need to do it remotely if your business can't afford to do that flight at the time. If you're going to go this route and you rock with Delta as I do, I highly recommend the Delta Gold Card. I've had it I started flying with Delta maybe 10 years ago. Around the time I sold Cutler. That's right. Yeah, I'm saying right, like you know what it is. But it's about 7-8 years ago. I sold Cutler in 2015, so whatever it is, 9 years ago. About 9 years ago, I started rocking with Delta. I love Delta, big fan of this. And even ethically, I like a lot of the stuff that they're deciding to do. And shortly after I was like, I'm rocking with Delta, I got the gold card. Number one, your bags are free. For you and I want to say 3 of your companions, maybe 4. I have a family of 4. I'm like, bet, and I'm I think the first time I went to Japan, I went there with like a large backpack and I was there for a week. I'm one of those people. The rest of my family is not. We'll put it like that. So being able to check in 2 bags apiece, that's 8. Can my fingers right? 8 bags. 8 bags for free. Done. I think there's a nominal fee. I think it's at this as of this live show, it's under $100 a year. So if you've been flying recently, if you're going to check 1 bag, I want to say it's $50. I haven't paid for a bag in so long, I can't remember what it is. But I think it's 50. For some folks, it's 60, 65. I think it might be for overseas. And it's just going up and up and up. Way back when I first started traveling, they didn't charge to check in the bag. This is where we're at right now. So number one, with this card, and like you and your party of 4 can check in 2 bags apiece for free. 8 bags if you're doing a Europe trip or going to Africa, whatever, you're good. You're good. It does have to be on the same ticket. I don't know if you have to charge it on the card. I don't think you do. But it has to be on the same ticket. In other words, the ticket needs to be that party needs to be purchased at the same time, right? So oftentimes that ends up being on the same card anyway. That's one really big perk. The second perk is that you are able to check in faster. So I want to say your main cabin 1, but they always are changing that. So even if you're a coach and you have no elite status, you're still able to get in a little bit earlier onto the plane. Number 3, you get 2 to 3 points for Delta purchases. And also, I believe you also get some extra points if you spend it at restaurants or at supermarkets. And they're changing it as we're speaking right now. So that might be changing, but that's the basic premise. You're able to get all that. Again, the annual fee is less than $100. Be sure and check it out. I think with my referral code, you might even get some bonus points. And usually, the amount of points that you get for signing up for a deal like this ends up being in the tens of thousands. The last time I checked, and I have some other flights that are coming up. Again, I was working with Navin earlier. Shout out to our sponsor. And I was checking out some flights for later on this year during the holidays. And I'm thinking, like, for Delta, a flight within the United States, contiguous United States, not Hawaii or Alaska, might end up being 24,000 points. I know for a lot of these credit card offers, they're talking 50, 60, 70, 80. Some of them are actually in the hundreds of thousands, believe it or not. I saw one offer recently for 110,000 points if you signed up. And I think you spent a certain amount on the card within the first 3 to 6 months, depending on the deal. These deals always change, but if you're interested in it, this would be the time to do so. The deals seem to be really high, so there might even be some other credit card offers I share with y'all once I figure out what's happening, because there's some good stuff out there, and I'll keep y'all posted if there's some other interesting stuff I see out there. And of course, you'll be supporting the show because I will get feedback and support to Bring Your Worth if you end up doing the link. So if you're going to do it, go and support the show, see what's happening. And of course, Let's Get Out the Bag. I'm a big Marriott guy at this point. Shout out to Marriott. I respect y'all. And this card works really well for several reasons. Number one, you get, I think, 3 times the amount of points for Marriott points. If you're not familiar as much with hotels as you are with airlines, they have the same type of points program. And so you add up these points, and then for 10,000 points, you're getting maybe a free night at a hotel. So it adds up really quickly. With this particular card, the Bonvoy business card, I want to say you're getting 5 points for every dollar spent for a Marriott property. And Marriott includes, believe it or not, I'm right down the street from the Strip. So that includes now MGM, Luxor, Excalibur, and I mean MGM Grand, just to be clear. There's a handful of them because they're acquiring those properties. So you're coming to Vegas, which I would welcome you. You're coming to Vegas to the Strip. You can actually use this card and then get buku points for it. And of course, we got the cheaper hotels here. You got to watch out for the resort fees though. But the hotels here are super cheap on the Strip. You can take advantage of that. Pay, $100 for a night for a hotel, but then end up getting 500. I think they have some bonus stuff, 500, maybe 1,000 points, depending on when you're able to click in there. So number one, you're able to go ahead and get a multiple on whatever you spend at Marriott properties. Number two, they actually put in bonus nights. And so the way that hotels work, at least with Marriott, I think quite a few of them work as well. What they basically do is say, look, you're not getting elite status by spending money or by doing a certain amount of miles. That doesn't make any sense. That's the way that the airlines do it. It makes sense for the Deltas, Americans, the United, the Southwest, and so forth. But we're going to give you points based on how many nights you stay. And not your friend, but you. You stay at night. You giving, you saw my number earlier, you giving your Marriott number or, Hilton, whatever, they're all the same. And then put in that number and say, okay, Damon stayed for one night in this property, great. The amount of nights that you stay, if you hit, say, 25 nights, then your status goes up. If you hit 50 nights, your status goes up. I have fairly high status with Marriott. Again, shout out to them. That's why I talked about focusing. That's what helps with that. I'm a focus guy. I have a shirt around here. If you see the earlier episodes from, I want to say early last year, I had a shirt that said focus. It was like, my family got me that shirt because that's a big thing of mine. That's why focus helps so much, because then you're able to rack up those nights. The key thing here with the Marriott Bonvoy business card, and there's like 6 different flavors of them. You can click the link, you'll see the different ones. Again, it's a referral, so you get a big bonus for it. Of course, I get something from it too. You be supporting the channel. If you click on there, there's like about 6 or so different ones. All different flavors. There's like the advanced ones, just like the airline cards that I talked about earlier. But for all of the cards, when you first get the card, and definitely when you renew the card, because it's an annual thing, when you renew the card, you get bonus nights. So I have one of these cards, and every time I hit the anniversary of me having the card, then they're like, hey, in my case, I want to say it's 10 or 15. They're like, hey, Damon, here's 15 bonus nights. And so I go to the TED Conference, which is like a week long, or I go to ASJ, shout out to American Society of Journalists and Authors, or I go to somewhere else. I take my family on a trip somewhere, whatever. I just spend the week in a hotel, and I've already gotten another status because the bonus seats are in the card. So you hit the annual thing, and it's like, bet, Damon, here's your 15. I think it is 15 night bonus, bet. So you can get multiple cards if you want, or you can go ahead and be dedicated to one particular card. Again, all the flavors are right there. Click on it, see which card fits you the best. Most of them, I think some of them do not have annual fee, and some of them have a higher annual fee, but because they have bigger benefits. And of course, there's other benefits to it, like they have restaurant programs, they have trip protection. Talked about that earlier. That was earlier in the episode. If you missed that part of the episode, again, all the links are below. Trip protection, safety wing will handle your health and those kind of things. The trip protection will handle, okay, I got to cancel this trip. Okay, this thing happened. I gotta go in a different direction. If you end up buying the flight, even if it's not a hotel, buying the flight or whatever with these particular cards, they will protect your trip. Right? So you got to find ways to work with it. Again, your business is going to be spending money anyway. I'd say, as I said at the top of the show, get into the business programs that different airlines and other travel providers have. Make sure that your insurance is good so that you're gonna not going on a trip and then losing money on the trip because you end up getting sick, or one of your team members isn't able to make it, and then you have to kind of eat the loss. And lastly, here you want to go ahead and maximize what you're spending. You're going to be taking flights anyway. You're not going to sleep on the street. You're going to have a hotel, right? Like, you're going to rent a car. So whether it's Hertz or Enterprise or Alamo, whomever, like, they all have programs. And a lot of them also have cards. So depending on, again, where you are financially with your credit score, with your debt, where your business is and all that, if it makes sense, do it and go for it. Today's show, make a peaceful, affordable holiday. I don't care what culture you're from. I don't care what religion you represent or don't represent. Everybody's doing something during the course of the year. Shout out to my Hindi, specifically Gujarati relatives. Diwali is going to be celebrated tomorrow. I love y'all. Same day as Halloween this year. So shout out to my Jewish friends and people I've been close to. Shout out to my fellow African Americans. We got Kwanzaa and other stuff happening. It's fully loaded. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, then that's your thing. That's coming up really soon too. There's two parts to what we're going to talk about today, but they kind of overlap. Notice what I'm saying. A peaceful, which means you're able to have these gatherings, whether you're going to somebody else's house or you're calling people or whatever. You got people coming to your house. So you need to be able to protect your peace, as they say. But then you also need to make it affordable. And if you're an entrepreneur like me, I've been independent for a long time. Can't remember the last time I had a traditional job. last time I had a W-2. I think that's what they're called. But doing the regular 1040s, it's been a long time since Mr. Brown has done that. And so if you're independent like me, if you're a side hustler, if you're a solopreneur, if you got little kids like I do, or you got people that are dependent on you, shout out to you out there taking care of your older relatives or people that need you, then you got to watch your money too. And if you're getting gifts for people, if you're traveling all over the place, it can get hectic out there, right? So right now we're going to find ways that you can just sit back and chill. If you understand that, Gem, please shoot something in the comments. We might be friends. My whole point is that we're going to talk about ways that things can be peaceful as far as you creating boundaries, and make sure that you protect your peace, and make sure that you protect your pocketbook or your wallet, your debit card, whatever you have to be using to make sure that you're good going into this. That goes into the sponsor of today's show, Navin Travel. Shout out to Navin. Thank you for holding me down in a good way. Your ultimate travel manager. Navin is cool for a couple different reasons. The first reason is that Navin actually came from the corporate sector. So I'll show y'all a demonstration really quickly or show you the website, but their list is long. You think about the Fortune 100s, we'll put it at that. They were actually more like what they would call a B2B, so business to business. So exclusive, private, VIP, da-da-da-da. Earlier this year, which is around the time they reached out to me, then they shifted over to B2C, we'll be C, consumers or customers, public customers. Once they shifted to that, they kept the same gear. This allows you to keep track of all your stuff as far as travel. It allows you to get special discounts. It even keeps track of your frequent flyer miles and all those things, which if you've been watching this for any time, or if you read my books or whatever, you see me speak, it's a big deal for me. They actually have a special running right now too, which I will get into in a second. Let me go and pull it up so you guys can check it out. It actually is an affiliate link, so you'll be supporting the channel, and also you'll be getting a special when you click on this particular link. Let me go ahead and pull this up for y'all. As I always say during this part of the program, I've done enough keynotes where the live thing is different. All right, so that obviously they have a rewards program right now too, which is the second reason why they're hot. They have a whole separate rewards program. I'm a rewards guy. Shout out to Brian Kelly, the original points guy, but I'm one of those people, particularly when my kids were young. I had us on first class flights. I took us overseas, barely opened my wallet. I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff early on taking my kids and my wife at the time all over the place, moving around, doing this, that, just through the points. This is an opportunity for you to get in that, onboard your company, which if you're watching the show, you probably got your side hustle, you probably got your LLC, or you got your DBA, you got your own thing going on. You might even have a burgeoning business. Shout out to y'all that I coach at burgeoning businesses. There's an opportunity for you to get on the ground floor with this. They just started getting public as far as bringing it to B2C. I think it just happened, let's say springtime. And then they did a sponsorship with me, I want to say early summertime. So this is still new. Right now, as we're recording this, right, it's Halloween tomorrow. And we're just starting off. This is a great time to do this. Let me go and close the promo. And then you can go ahead and set your stuff up. And it's showing you right there. They work with Shopify, Ancestry, Paychecks. The list goes on. And they'll go ahead and give you certain insights based on that. The second part of it, which I really like, you can actually set up boundaries to what you're trying to do. So let's say you're a founder of a business like I am, and you have employees, and you are trying to get to content marketing world in San Diego. It just happened. Shout out to them. Or you're trying to get to the TED conference, and it's up in Vancouver and usually in March or April. And you're like, crew, let's get up there. You can go ahead and set them up on this website. Go ahead and say, okay, here you go. Get up to, let's say Vancouver. Get up to Vancouver for $500, which is totally reasonable coming from America. All right, bet. That gives them boundaries that are actually within this. So you can go and say, go ahead and book your flight. But you can tell Navin it's only going to be up to $500. That allows you to keep your peace. Keep your peace because you're not worried about stuff. And also makes it more manageable because you're able to set those boundaries and you're able to have an affordable trip. Be sure and check them out. I don't know how long they're going to be having this special, but be sure and check them out. Thank y'all to Navin for supporting the show and helping all of us bring your worth. So today we're talking about make a peaceful, affordable holiday. What exactly does that mean? Where we're going to start? There's 3 big tenets that I think will help you, that'll allow you to do so. If you have any insights as far as how you keep your peace while you're going on and about with whatever holidays you have, whether it's the holidays in springtime or the winter holidays that we have coming up, let me know. Chop it up in the comments and let us know what's happening. The first thing is to separate your have-tos from your want-tos. Again, to separate your have-tos from your want-tos. What I mean is that there's a lot of things that we say, I have to do this. I have to show up here. I have to present myself this way. I can't do it that way because I have to do this. A lot of those have-tos are actually want-tos. A lot of those have-tos are actually want-tos. I have to not present this way because I don't want to have a conflict. I don't want to have a conflict. I have to have this person in my life because I don't want to lose certain benefits I get from them being around. I have to keep having this particular way that I am talking with people because if I change, then I'm going to lose some clout with that. I went through some of this when I did less journalism. I have 2 degrees in journalism, master's in magazine publishing. Very proud journalist. Journalist since I was a little older than my eldest son. So I started when I was around 14. And then around the time I was 34, 35, then I became an entrepreneur twice over. Second one was called Cuddler. It was a startup. It was an app that connected people for hugs. We ended up selling the app after it became the #1 app in the world. I think it was from 2014, going into 2015. We sold it in summer of 2015. Around the time, my oldest son had just turned 2. My youngest hadn't been born yet. And I came back to journalism and I was like, well, I feel like I'm not a journalist anymore. Right. I was a founder. I sold the company. Shout out to my 2 co-founders. We sold the company. Well, what am I? And what I realized is that a lot of my identity was tied to being a journalist. A lot of my identity was saying, okay, I went to, at the time, the #1 journalism school in the country ranked. Shout out to Northwestern. And it's like, when I started to let that go and say, well, I don't have to be a journalist. then that's when my column started with Inc. magazine. Shout out to Inc. My columns are still up if you go to inc.com. Started my column with Inc. magazine. I started coaching practice. Shout out to the hundreds of y'all that I've coached now, and I'm still coaching. That's when the Bites Entrepreneur started, and that's when, and that was the first bestseller of all the books that are featured in the Bring Your Worth collection. And so when I let that go, what I have to do, then suddenly I realized, I wanted to continue to have the cloud of being a journalist, but that doesn't fit who I am anymore. That also applies to how we show up with our family, how we show up with the people that we love. There are certain ways that we can be closer to our true selves without confining ourselves to a certain space. I talk about this quite a bit more in my weekly newsletter, today's newsletter, called Do You Have to Do It? You can click the link below. It's free. It's every Wednesday at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I talk about it more extensively here. But to paraphrase one of the lines in there, it's like, what happens when the armor of who you were as a child becomes too tight? You go to Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, Yom Kippur, Sepulchre Liberation, or whatever it happens to be, Diwali, and you're still showing up in the same way that you showed up when you were a child. And you're like, you got gray hairs like I do. At a certain point, you're going to be constricted. What happens when that armor that you wear, where you're doing way more emotional labor than what you should be doing? You're carrying other people's stuff. You're worried about what other people are doing. Other people are emotionally immature, so you're taking on their stuff. What happens when that armor is too heavy to lift, and suddenly your life is being constricted? Suddenly you start having health issues and start getting stressed out. At what point does it topple over and you say enough's enough? For a lot of us, we just keep wearing the armor. We keep being weighed down. We keep being too tight. We keep struggling with it. And we just deal with it because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. That's where we're supposed to be in our family. That's our lot in life. But sometimes life will step in and will physically, mentally, or emotionally come in and say, no, you literally can't do this anymore. You're going to have that breakdown. You're going to start yelling at people when they try to put you in that box. You're going to have this health thing that's going to remind you that these are want tos, they're not have tos. The only thing you have to do is be an amazing person and show up as your best. That's all you got to do. The rest of it is optional. The rest of it might be based on other people's expectations. When we get into the holidays, when we get into any type of celebrations, that's when we're hanging out with other people, and other people got their own baggage. It's not your job to carry. But sometimes we have to go down a certain route and realize that. So number one thing is to separate your have-tos to your want-tos from your want-tos. Yes, you might have to stop at so-and-so's house. You know that person's house. Where you're back at home or your home city or whatever, you got to stop at so-and-so's house. You know there's probably going to be drama there. But how long are you going to stay? Or do you have to stop at so-and-so's house? Maybe you don't have to. Separate those have-tos from those want-tos. Those have-tos, you got to honor them. Those want-tos though, separate them enough to make sure that you have some peace of mind. Speaking of that, my favorite book right now, man, I hope y'all are reading some of these. I'm stumbling upon some bangers. Shout out to Ray, I love you to death. He recommended this book, as well as some other folks recommended it to me. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Sounds like an ether. Shout out to Nas. It does. Sounds like a burn. Whatever generation you're part of, it sounds like shots are being fired. And they are. The thing is, though, is that as I joked with someone recently, you know who you are. The calls are actually coming from inside the house. If that's not a double entendre, I don't know what is. This book is fantastic. It talks about how it says parents, the limitations of the people that raised us. Could be parents, could be grandparents, could be guardians, foster parents, whatever your vibe is. Those people that were around you to help mold you into who you are. When we're children, and this is what most kids do, we assume that they always have our best interests in mind. And if they're doing something, it's best for us. It is in our best interest. You're good. And this book is basically arguing no, actually. Because some of the people that raised us, some people that are around, some of the adults, they were jacked up. And sometimes that is being projected onto you. This is what I talk about with emotional labor. There's so many definitions of the word. Even with people that I care about, my friends, we'll say the words emotional labor and we'll mean 15 different things. What I mean by emotional labor is someone's not able to deal with their emotions. They're overwhelmed or they shut down or what have you. And you're helping to pick up those pieces. Sometimes you're doing that for the people that are actually supposed to be protecting you. This book gets into it. It is a showstopper. It's fantastic. I know a lot of you are going to family gatherings or people that raised you, whatever. Please read this book before you get there. Please. I almost didn't do a program today because I got other things going on. I got some deadlines, a lot of exciting stuff happening behind the scenes. But I was like, I have to get on today. So I just finished this book. You see the dog ears. I was like, I got to let fam, meaning you, know what's happening before you get to the holiday season, at least the major holiday season here in America. Bam. Go ahead and pick it up. It's a fantastic book. I think it's also important too, not only was I able to read through there and identify some of the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid, but also I have an 8 and 11-year-old. So the dynamics I have with, my co-parenting partner, the dynamics I have with the kids, how I'm showing them, even though I work really hard for y'all, for my co-parenting partner, for my kids, for my family to be as honest with myself and as clear with myself, there's still stuff I need to work on. That reminded me of this book. I was proud of the work that I've done, so I realized how much I've grown, despite some of the stuff that happened when I was a child. I talk about it in my books. I'm not going to get into it. But there's always room to grow. So it's not an indictment of the people that raised you or the adults that you were around when you were a kid. It's also a discussion about how you can be a more mature adult. Fantastic book. Can't recommend it enough. There's been so many bangers this year. This book is old too. I want to say it's like 10 years old. But you also see it sold 750,000 copies. So if you're worried about the holiday season, if you got family drama, whatever, you got 750,000 people who feel the same way. So much love to you. If you're not looking forward to hanging out in the holidays or whatever, grab this book. Maybe you have some type of framework to set those boundaries, which we'll talk about boundaries a little bit more in a minute. Speaking of, exactly a year ago, Brene Brown, 3 Ways to Deal with Holiday Drama. It's super short. If I explained it more than 3 minutes, it'd be longer than this episode. 3 things that you can do to stave off holiday drama. That's it. Check it out after we're done. Really quick episode. And Brene Brown, I love her work. And a lot of y'all do too, based on some of the videos that I put up. It's a lot of that energy. Say no more. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. This is Bring Your Worth TV. I'm here on Wednesdays, live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. And my latest book, Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. If you're watching on Amazon, the links are right there. Elsewhere, you can go ahead and click on the links below. And of course, you can check out the audiobook for free at that link right there, youtube.b/all the rest of that jazz. So how are y'all separating your have-tos from your have-once? Do you have a hard time separating? How do you distinguish between the stuff that's really important and the stuff that maybe somebody's coercing you to do? Or maybe, which is the tricky part, your past self, I don't mean past lives, I mean your younger self, those things that you promised that you do for a short period of time when you were younger. How are those handcuffs starting to feel when you realize you don't want to do that anymore? How are you working yourself out of it? That's what I'm trying to say. Jump into the comments if you feel like sharing that. I love to hear it. I share some of this in my books, including obviously in the Complete Bring Your Worth collection and with some previous episodes. You know, if you want some insight in that or stuff that I've dealt with, feel free to hit rewind. All right. Next thing, create micro moments in the chaos. I like this one a lot. If you want to have a peaceful, affordable holiday, make sure you're creating those micro moments. A few different parts of it. First of all, creating micro moments doesn't mean you have to go rent a yacht and do this over here or get on a flight, So micro means it's just a moment. It just means a moment in time. And it doesn't mean, you're at Nana's Thanksgiving and you're overwhelmed and then you just leave. It doesn't mean that either. That's not micro. That's macro. That's macro. What we're talking about is micro. It means you go and if you're stressed out at a holiday gathering, then you go get some fresh air. Especially, I'm originally from Jersey. I have my teenage years in Michigan. So that crisp air, it just does something to me. Again, it's getting a little bit chilly here in Vegas. I slept so good last night. And then I realized the temperature dropped like 15 degrees, which is why you hear a little bit of this back here, with my allergies and stuff, but I slept so good. There's something about the crisp air. We're in that season. If you're in North America, we're in that season. Go get some fresh air. You don't have to be in Nana's face all day. That aunt that gets on your nerves, you don't have to hang out with her. You don't have to spend that whole time with her. Get some micro time. It's fine. If you need to go ahead and go to the bathroom and then take a 10-minute bathroom break and you're just doing deep breaths, kick a yoga pose in the bathroom, I don't know, whatever you need to do that. I know for me, many, many years ago, back when I lived in New Orleans, which was probably about right when Katrina hit. That was around the time I lived there. So we're talking just over 20 years ago. Hard to believe it's been 20 years since I lived down there. And when I got down there, I knew that I needed to get more centered. It was a stressful period of time for me because I was in a long distance relationship. It was tough. I was on my own in New Orleans because I had a couple good friends, you know who you are, that I made down there, but they weren't like ready-made. You know what I'm saying? Those friendships built up. And there was a big community previously in Chicago that I had that I didn't have anymore. And I just frankly, I took them for granted because I had them for so long. And now I had to build up that community again, which I did. But, that's another story. And so suddenly I just started meditating and it felt like the right thing to do. And with me meditating, it was me just sitting there and focusing and relaxing for, I think it was just 4 minutes. It might have been 3 minutes when I started. Which when you're meditating, if you've meditated before, feel free to jump into the comments. If you've meditated before, 3 minutes just being still, it's actually a really long time. It's kind of like, it reminds me of doing the barbell curls, where these seem really basic. And, I got some 10 pounders over there that feel really basic until you do like the 50th one. And suddenly you start to get that burn right here. It's like, wow, that's what meditation's like. So 3 minutes is actually a really long time. I'm not trying to defend it, just explaining where if you haven't meditated before, to actually really be in meditation for 3 minutes is a long time. That was enough micro. But it became a regular habit. It's been a habit since then. I do it most mornings. Sometimes I'll catch it in the afternoon. But me just having that micro habit, that micro moment, just did it for me and still does it for me. Now I've increased the time, but it's still the same energy. So now if I'm having a stressful moment or things getting wild, whatever, I know I can just sit down. My kids are getting on my nerves or work is stressful, whatever. Then I can pull myself right into it. But that's from a habit that I've built over can't believe it, more than 2 decades. That's what I mean by micro moments. One of the challenges I think that we have in general is that we feel like acts need to be this huge thing. We feel like it has to be this grand gesture. Like I was talking about in the previous segment, it has to be, we can't just go over to grandma's house. We have to go to grandma's house. They have to be there the whole afternoon. They would take her to the store. Well, what do we have to do? And what do we want to do? Let's separate those. Same thing with this. We don't have to do this grand gesture or spend all this money to do this big thing. One of my kids' favorite things that we ended up doing was we had a record heat, which is a lot here in Vegas. And so it was a random Sunday. There was some other stuff going on at the house. And I said, you know what? Forget it. Let's just go ahead and go to a hotel. And so I talked to the boys. I was like, do you guys want to go to a hotel? And they were like, is that cool? It's like, yeah. They're like, yes. Can we get snacks? Absolutely. Let's go. So we went. It wasn't even far, a few miles away from where we lived. They had a blast. They still talk about it to this day. Those are micro things. We didn't have to get on a plane. We didn't have to do this and that. It was affordable. I have status, Marriott, some other places, so it was fine. It was cool. But they had this great experience. Take that and apply it to other things. How can you infuse even your regular days, not just holidays, your regular days with rest, with beauty, with calmness? I'm a stay-at-home dad, so chaos has become my friend. And even I can squeeze in those 5-minute meditations. Even I can go and say, okay, we're going to do this and still be affordable. Find ways that you can do it on a smaller scale. And I think that's based on what recharges you, which we'll talk about even more in a couple minutes. Another favorite book of this year, man. I've read so many good books this year. The amount of books I've read this year has also increased. So maybe it's just because I'm being exposed to all these books that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many good books. Yeah. This one, I don't have it physically because someone else has it. But this book, Adult Trojan of Emotionally Immature Parents. And there was another banger that came out this year. All competing for Book of the Year. It's so good. So good. Rest is Resistance. It's fantastic. It's from Dr. Tricia Hersey. Shout out to her. She actually started something called the NAP Ministry. I want to say it started in the South, maybe in Atlanta, where she basically would gather people, particularly people of color, and say, hey, we're just going to rest for an hour. We're going to have like nap-ins, how sit-ins used to happen in the 60s. And you think of like in the early 70s with the post-hippie revolution. I'm thinking of like Yoko Ono and John Lennon, where they had the sleep-ins, you know what I mean, where they were protesting the Vietnamese War and all that. Imagine that, but geared towards people of color, and everyone just rested. I've been a napper as long as I've been an independent creator, so a long time, basically all my adulthood. And I love the theory of this, love the discussion. I love, most importantly, the practice. This book is a big argument of that. Love it, love it, love it. Highly recommend that. If you're not sure how to create micro moments of rest and of beauty for yourself, and more importantly, if you feel guilt or shame. Guilt is when you feel like you're doing something wrong. Shame is when you're afraid someone else is going to say you're doing something wrong. If you're feeling either one or both of those, read this book. So important. If you're going on vacation, if you're having a holiday, when are you actually resting? Do you actually have rest planned into your holiday? Do you have rest planned into your vacation? That's what I'm talking micro. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to take a day and not leave the bed or not do anything, which those days are great. If you can do it, swing it, more power to you. But it could be just, I'm going to take 10 minutes and go for a walk. That's the type of rest. Even if you live in the hood. Don't go down the dangerous street. You know what I'm talking about. But even if you live in the hood, I've done long walks when I lived in New Orleans and some of the rough areas. I've done long walks when I lived in San Francisco, and it looked like a postcard. Shout out to the Golden Gate Bridge, and just looking over at Fort Myers, whatever the fort is over. I think it's Fort Sumter over there. Man, wherever you're at, find that beauty. This book talks about that. That's the one. And one of my most popular videos over the past year, how do I make time to rest? Ultimate Live Guide. It's a few live shows that I put together that talk about the stuff I'm talking about. How do you rest? How do you heal? How do you get yourself together? One of the most popular videos. I was not expecting that, but y'all seem to dig it. So be sure and check it out. I think it's about 2 hours long. So grab as much of it as you can. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, and you subscribe for free. How do you create moments of peace in the chaos? What are you doing to stay calm when your family's getting on your nerves, your chosen family or your blood family? How are you keeping yourself together? There's been so much intensity and so much pressure, so many arguments this year, and I mean this in a broad sense. How are you keeping your peace? It's important, and this is a great opportunity for you to learn the methods of how you can do that the best way. And you separate your have-tos from your want-tos, create micro moments in the chaos, and build boundaries to your travel. Build boundaries to your travel. Here's what I mean by that. You can meet people someplace. You can toggle and say, instead of having this holiday over here, why don't y'all come out to us? Instead of y'all coming out to us, why don't we come over to you? Why don't we go ahead and meet in the middle? I got family all across the place. So originally from the East Coast, I live on the West Coast now. So this is a common conversation. How can we set that up? How can we go ahead and build those conversations that actually make sense? I think there's two elements to figuring out what those boundaries are. Number one is to shift what they call FOMO, which you probably heard of, to JOMO, which you might not have heard of. FOMO, which you probably heard of, is fear of missing out, being afraid that you're going to miss something. There's about 5 or 6 conferences, no cap, in the past month that I got invited to or I want to get to, and I ended up not going to most of them just because of all the stuff I have going on behind the scenes. Got a lot of stuff I can't wait to share with you guys, and I'm like, I just don't have the capacity to do that. To JOMO. JOMO is the joy of missing out. Saying, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do this. As the classic saying goes, saying yes to one thing means saying no to a million other things. If you say no to one particular thing, that means you can say yes to this. For me, I've been prioritizing rest. I prioritize coaching appointments and catching up with y'all, doing a lot of writing behind the scenes, a lot of projects, a lot of negotiations. It's been such a fun month with this month of October as we're recording this. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of those things if I wasn't feeling JOMO, because I'm not on a lot of social media, as a lot of y'all probably know, but being able to say, I see them on social media, it sounds like they're having a wonderful time at this event, at this conference, at this speaking thing. That sounds great. I'm going to enjoy hanging out with my kids and going record shopping. When it was a little bit warmer in the month, I am going to enjoy taking them into the pool. And we're going to enjoy the last days of summer. At least here in Las Vegas, last days of summer, before it gets cold, which had just happened a couple days ago, right? I'm going to enjoy working on these projects that you guys are going to absolutely adore, or at least will have a big impact in your life. And I don't need to worry about what's out there. The same can be said for our travel. I love traveling. My passport stays on pivot. I love traveling. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But just like you, I can't be everywhere. So maybe there's a destination that you want to get to. Maybe there's family members that want you to come visit them. Maybe there's a chosen family or loved ones that you want to rock with this year. And maybe it's not the time. Maybe your bank account is saying, yeah, you might want to pay this down first. Yeah, you might want to hustle a little bit and get this work together. So turning that FOMO into JOMO is a powerful place. Namely because a lot of people aren't able to do that, particularly as social media gets bigger. Social media didn't create the FOMO, but definitely accelerated it. It's like a lighter fluid on whatever insecurities or jealousies we already have. We want to be outside. We want to be everywhere at once. Particularly when it comes to side hustles, to entrepreneurs like you and I, we want to be all in the mix. And as I've written about in my books, I've written about in the columns, I've talked about it in a couple keynotes as well. Sometimes we have to focus on just doing the work. Sometimes we just need to actually roll back to move forward. To paraphrase Whitney Johnson, shout to her, doing a slingshot, where it's maybe a time to do gathering. Maybe it's the time to save your money. Maybe it's time to gather your resources so you can do something bigger later. Maybe it's not the time for that. And sometimes there's going to be loved ones who want you to do certain things, whether it's to buy a certain gift of a certain price, to show up at a certain place, and that's going to cost a certain amount of money, to do things in a certain time. If you can separate that FOMO from that JOMO and actually push to the JOMO side, then you have the opportunity to say, I don't need to do that. Again, your have tos separate from your want tos. There's an opportunity to learn a lot more about that. The second thing, which really helps with the finances, is to figure out what energizes you. For me, I get energized by being at new places. One. Number two, eating really good food. Number three, hearing good music or the sounds. I'm really into sounds. See Coltrane right behind my big head. Really into sounds. And fourth, I'm not really into big crowds. I don't need to have those big, gigantic family reunions with 300 people. At the end of the day, and I've been to some shots of my family, but y'all know me, so I'm not speaking out of turn. You already know who Damon is. At the end of the day, it's going to be me and 3 people in the corner having a great conversation for most of the time. So I know that I lean towards smaller crowds. All those things inform what kind of travel I do. So you're not going to see me going to a family gathering and there's 1 million people. You're not going to see me at a big concert where it's like mosh pitted out. No shots at mosh pits. Just a little bit too old for mosh pits right now. But that's not my vibe. So financially, I can make decisions based on that. My family and I were recently in Paris. Paris fits perfectly because not too crowded, at our own pace. I love Parisian food. I drank my weight in coffee. I ate my weight in croissants. Let's go. And of course, I like the vino. Great time. That made financial and psychological sense versus me going to, me going to Daytona Beach during a spring break week. That sounds like, shout out to Dante's Inferno. That sounds like one of the rings of hell to me. Wouldn't do it. So financially, as far as my peace of mind and the decision I make, will make it a lot easier. I also don't need to be in sunny weather. So I don't need to be in sunny weather, bet. I need to be at places at their peak time when the weather is quote unquote good. So that saves me a ton of money. My whole point is to know what energizes you. Being in big crowds does not energize me. It takes energy out of me. Me being in small, intimate crowds, great. And there's really, really close friend groups that I consider family. You know who you are. Where we've hung out, it's just been 3 or 4 of us. Sometimes wherever destination we're at, we barely left the hotel room. And we're just having a drink, talking our stuff, catching up, sharing hugs, sharing tears, watching movies, going for a walk around the premises, wherever we're at. It's just a vibe. I'm able to make financial decisions with my travel based on that. My family and I were not in Paris during the Olympics. We were out of there by the time the Olympics came. That's a decision. But if you get caught up in the FOMO, you're like, oh, well, if Paris has to be during the Olympics, it has to be during this event. No, it doesn't. And that's got me shaking the table here. But that doesn't, but because you're making those decisions, you're able to go ahead and make smarter financial decisions. Of course, shout out to our sponsor, Navin Travel, who can help you get some of that money back or get into a rewards program that allow you to save even more money, particularly when it comes to your business travel. And that's what's up with that. My favorite airline, Delta, and one of my favorite cards, the Gold Card. They do have higher tiers, which I'm starting to mess with. This is a great starter pack, though. The Gold Card will allow you to get in one of the earlier rankings. I always change the name of it. You know what I'm talking about, where the pacing as far as when you're able to get on board, you'll be super early. I think it's main 1. But don't quote me on that. They keep changing it. All of them keep changing, including my boys over at Delta. They keep changing it. But it allows you to get into one of the earlier things. So you can get on board faster, which is great. You actually get, I think it's 2 free pieces of luggage for each person on the ticket. And so, right, it's me and my boys. That's 6 pieces of luggage. And I'm a minimalist when I travel, so everyone else can take up the other ones. But as of this recording, I haven't paid it in so long, it's been a minute. But as of this recording, I think it's $60 per bag that you check in, right? So, right. Even if you're flying out by yourself, that's $120 each way. It's not round trip 60. It's each way. If you got 2 bags you're checking in, you're going there and back, that's what, $240? You missed me with that. You also get an opportunity to get a whole bunch of points based on, as of this reporting, your restaurants, I want to say your grocery store, so any food, as well as obviously for Delta. And I think you get 3 miles, frequent flyer miles per dollar you spend with Delta. And that can get you closer to, booking the flight of your dreams and actually saving some money. This has been integral. This and a couple other cards have been integral to me making affordable travel. Initially as an entrepreneur, because a lot of these cards I got when I started my startups, when I had to travel. Shout out to my co-founders when I went to connect with them when I was doing Cuddler, as well as the potential investors and stuff. Shout out to you, who you are. And then it translated to, okay, how can I travel with my family? And that's what it's translated to now, as well as some business travel, particularly for 2025. I'm excited to do some business travel. I've been putting a lot of time, I'm spending a lot of time underground and doing my thing behind the scenes this year. Next year, it's probably mean a lot more traveling. It's integral to that. Be sure and check it out. I think you get a really nice bonus right now because they're doing it for the holiday season. And of course, you'll be supporting the program. It's an affiliate link.